David De Angelis presents The Amazing Secrets of the Yogi by Charles F. Haanel. Digitally narrated using the voice of Edward Herman. Introduction by the author Charles F. Haanel. In this volume one have embodied many valuable secrets, which have been collected with great care from the treasured wisdom of ancient India. These secrets, if put into daily practice, will bring you added health, greater success, and unbounded happiness. They will prove to be a guide, philosopher, and friend, and will serve you well in times of trouble, difficulty, or disease. In fact, you will soon come to regard them as the greatest boon that has ever come into your life. They will invest you with courage, hope, health, success, power, length of days, a radiant countenance, and a magnetic personality. You will now probably want to know something concerning Victor S. Pereira, who has collaborated with me in penning this work. He was born February 21, 1897 at Matara, on the island of Ceylon, India. He was born of Sinhalese parents and was brought up as a Christian. His early education was in Sinhalese, his mother tongue, but he was later educated in English and attended an English college. His health was delicate, which made him quiet and reserved, but he had a marvelous memory, which soon placed him at the head of his classmates in every subject. Because of continued ill health, he left college in 1915, passing out as an undergraduate of Cambridge University. He had intended to study medicine, but ill health prevented, and in 1917 he became a teacher. He contributed articles to the Indian Recorder, 1923 to 1924, on the operation of the law of karma, which gave the highest teachings which have been long lost to the world, concerning the operation of the law of cause and effect on the mental plane. The article received the highest appreciation. The important facts contained in this volume will place a scepter of power in your hands with which you can open a pathway to health, success, and the life abundant. You will find that they contain a priceless message which will bring solace to your mental wounds in times of distress. You will come to feel that you have realized a lifelong dream, and will often regret that this information did not come to you much earlier. And what is best of all, you will find nothing in these lessons which will in any way conflict with any religious principles which you may hold. On the other hand, your spiritual convictions will be strengthened because you will find that truth is the same in all lands and in all times, regardless of the name it may take or the manner of its presentation. May the message which has been penned for you by myself and by my collaborator in Ceylon, the pearl upon the brow of India, the Eden on the western wave, linger long with you and bring you a world of light and life and beauty, radiant with joy and youth. Charles F. Haanel, University City, USA. Part 1. Ita, Pungala, and Sushumna. This part tells you of a strange discovery made by the Hindu scientists, how and why certain practices make one positive, courageous, daring, and passionate, while others make one timid, humble, obedient, and spiritual. This is one of the amazing secrets of the yogi and is worth many times the price of the entire course. 1. If we divide a human body into two halves along the median line, we should observe that most of the organs which are intended to carry out some function of the body consist of two symmetrical parts, one located on the right half of the body, the other on the left half. 2. Thus, the brain, the eyes, the ears, the nose, the arms, the lungs, the kidneys, the testicles or ovaries, and the legs are all double organs or parts, one of which is situated on the right side of the body, and the other on the left. 3. This is because man is a magnet having two poles, the same as all other bodies which manifest magnetic properties. 4. The right side of his body represents the positive pole, while the left side represents the negative pole. 5. Spirit, mind substance, astral substance, ether and matter all manifest two poles, the positive and the negative. This is an inherent law of the cosmos. Male and female, heat and cold, north and south, east and west, light and darkness, day and night, represent the two poles of each continuous whole. 6. The positive pole manifests characteristics diametrically opposed to those of the negative. The functions of one similarly differ from the other. 7. Each pole of a body having magnetic properties is so constituted that it absorbs, inhales, stores up, retains, and radiates, exhales, a subtle form of energy, from and to the surrounding space. 8. The energy absorbed and radiated by the positive pole differs from the energy absorbed and radiated by the negative pole. But at the spot which divides the positive pole from the negative pole, the body possesses the characteristics of neither the positive nor the negative, but a combination of both. 9. Now this is true of the human organism. The right side of the body forms the positive pole and the left side the negative pole of the human magnet. 10. As energy is fluidic and kinetic, it has control over matter. 11. Ether is static energy. It fills all space and interpenetrates all solids, all gases. 12. Ether consists of positive and negative electrons. 13. When anybody having magnetic properties ceases to absorb and radiate energy from and to the surrounding space, its magnetic properties cease. 14. It is then dead. 15. Each human being from birth to death performs the act of breathing, inhaling, retaining, and exhaling. 16. With each inhalation he absorbs not only air, but also ether or pranic energy, which interpenetrates the air. 17. Air is inhaled through the nostrils, the right nostril and the left nostril. 18. The air inhaled passes through the interior of the nose, the pharynx, the larynx, the windpipe, and the bronchial tubes, and enters the lungs. 19. The lungs receive the air inhaled and absorb the oxygen in the air, which mixes with the blood. 20. When the oxygen comes in contact with the blood, a form of combustion takes place, and the blood takes up the oxygen and releases the carbonic acid gas, which is ejected from the lungs at each exhalation. 21. The Hindu scientists discovered that the breath does not always flow at the same time from both nostrils. They found that the breath flows through one nostril at a time, and from time to time during each day, it flows for short intervals from both nostrils. 22. Instead of finding irregularity or want of uniformity in the flow of breath in human beings, nay, in all breathing things, they found law, order, and rhythm which governs all manifestations of the universe, from the most insignificant or trivial to the most stupendous. 23. They discovered that in persons of normal health, the breath flows for nearly 60 minutes or 1 hour through one nostril, and then changes to the other to flow for a period of the same duration, i.e. 1 hour. 24. Every hour the breath flow changes from one nostril to the other. Thus, for each day of 24 hours, the breath flows for 12 alternate hours through the left nostril, and the other 12 alternate hours through the right nostril. 25. When one nostril is in flow, there will be no flow from the other, till the time comes for the breath flow to change to the other. 26. There are two nerve currents in the spinal column called Pingala and Ida. There is a hollow canal called Sushumna running through the spinal cord. 27. Every time we breathe, air as well as ether travels along either Ida nerve or Pingala nerve, and after circulating up and down passes out through the nostrils. 28. The Ida nerve begins in the left nostril, at the root of the nose, just where the left nostril converges into the right, passes through the cerebellum and medulla oblongata, runs along the left side of the spinal cord, and ends at the lower end of the spine. 29. Similarly, the Pingala nerve begins from the right nostril, passes through the cerebellum and medulla oblongata, runs through the right side of the spine, and ends at its base. 30. The Sushumna nerve or canal, though not directly connected with either of the nostrils, begins from the base of the brain or the medulla oblongata, runs down the central cavity of the spinal column, and ends at the coccyx, where Pingala, Ida, and Sushumna are connected. 31. Within the root of the nose, where the two nostrils converge and where Ida and Pingala nerves begin, is one of the most vital spots in the body. This spot is very sensitive and manifests a peculiar kind of intelligence. 32. The roots of the Ida and Pingala nerves are located here. Their sensitiveness and intelligence are displayed in selecting etheric electrons from each breath of air which passes through the nostrils. 33. Within the interior chamber of each nostril, there is a gate or shutter of cartilaginous formation. These gates are controlled from this vital center. When the breath flows through one nostril, its gates stand open, while that of the other remains closed. This spot is a vital center because health or disease, success or failure, gain or loss, life or death are the results which accrue from the way this center acts. 34. The planetary rays also converge at this spot and control its functions, and at this spot is located the helm which controls human life. Therefore, a yogi must learn to control this vital center and change the flow of breath as required for securing desired results. 35. When the Pingala nerve or the right nostril is in flow, the Ida nerve lies inactive or dormant, and the gate of the left nostril remains obstructed. Similarly, when the Ida nerve or the left nostril is in flow, the Pingala nerve lies dormant and the gate of the right nostril remains shut. But when the Sushumna nerve or both nostrils are in flow, the gates of both of them lie ajar, and both Pingala and Ida nerves are fully active. 36. When the right nostril is in flow, from each inhalation of air, the Pingala nerve selects the positive electrons contained in the ether, which interpenetrates the air, and carries a current of positive electromagnetism down the right side of the spine. 37. Because the right side is positive, people in whom the right nostril flow is predominant evince positive characteristics, such as martial spirit and sometimes unusual aggressiveness. 38. In certain males, unbridled sexual passion is the result of an excessive flow of the right nostril. 39. Similarly, when the left nostril is in flow, the Ida nerve carries currents of negative electrons down the left side of the spine. 40. When the left nostril flow is predominant in man, he manifests negative characteristics such as fear, timidity, submission, humbleness, obedience, etc., and also virtues such as truthfulness, kindness, benevolence, reverence, and spirituality. 41. The positive electromagnetic currents and the negative electromagnetic currents, which run alternately down Pingala and Ida nerves respectively, meet at the solar plexus and other plexi of the sympathetic nervous system, which lie along the spinal column and supply prana for the conduct of the human machine. 42. As the numerous branches which Pingala and Ida nerves send out connect all of the plexi of the sympathetic system with the cerebrospinal system, much of the etheric energy which is conveyed along Pingala and Ida is stored up in the different plexi, the chief of which is the solar plexus. 43. When Sushumna or both nostrils are equally in flow, both Pingala and Ida nerves carry their respective currents down the spine at the same time, and these currents, as they go down the spine, distributing their wealth among the different plexi, carry what remains to the base of the spine, where they meet and supply prana to the Sushumna canal. 44. The sympathetic nervous system has its center in the solar plexus, and is the channel of that mental action which unconsciously supports the vital functions of the body. 45. The connection between the cerebrospinal and the sympathetic nervous system is made by the vagus nerve, which passes out of the cerebral region as a portion of the voluntary system to the thorax, sending out branches to the heart and lungs, and finally passing through the diaphragm. It loses its outer coating and becomes identified with the nerves of the sympathetic system, so forming a connecting link between the two and making man physically a single entity. 46. The cerebrospinal system is the organ of the conscious mind, and the sympathetic is the organ of the subconscious. The cerebrospinal is the channel through which we receive conscious perception from the physical senses, and exercises control over the movements of the body. This system of nerves has its center in the brain. 47. When the solar plexus is in active operation and is radiating life and energy and vitality to every part of the body, and to everyone that you meet, the sensations are pleasant, the body is filled with health, and all with whom you come in contact experience a pleasant sensation. 48. If then you wish to develop courage, power, if you wish to become less timid and more aggressive, practice breathing through the right nostril. At first you may find it necessary to close the left nostril with the forefinger, but you will gradually acquire control and will eventually be able to close either nostril at will. 49. If you wish to cultivate any of the spiritual qualities such as benevolence, reverence, truthfulness, kindness, cheerfulness, or goodness, you will practice breathing through the left nostril. 50. The information contained in this part is so startling, so unique, so useful, so surprisingly dependable, that we feel that all students who are so fortunate as to obtain this series of amazing secrets will lose no time in breaking the fetters which have held them in bondage to the misconceptions and traditions by which they have been enslaved. 51. Part 2 contains a secret of equal or greater importance. It tells how many attract to themselves evils and misfortunes, how others attract happiness and fortune. It also tells how the mighty wonder-workers of India project themselves to any desired location at will. This is one of the secrets which have heretofore been given by word of mouth only. It has seldom, if ever before, been revealed in print. Part 1. Study questions with answers. 1. The brain, the eyes, the nose, the arms, the lungs, the kidneys, the legs are all double organs. Why is this? Because man is a magnet having two poles. 2. Is this true of man only? Not only is man a magnet, but all other bodies are magnets which manifest magnetic properties. 3. Which side of the human body is the positive pole? Which negative? The right side of the human body represents the positive pole, while the left side represents the negative pole. 4. What happens when the body ceases to absorb and radiate energy from and to surrounding space? Its magnetic properties cease, and it is then dead. 5. Does the air flow through both nostrils continuously? The breath flows only for short intervals through both nostrils, from time to time each day. Generally, it flows through only one nostril at a time. 6. How does the breath usually flow in persons of normal health? In persons of normal health, the breath flows for nearly 60 minutes or 1 hour through one nostril, and then changes to the other to flow for a period of the same duration, i.e. 1 hour. 7. How are people affected when the flow of the right nostril is predominant? Because the right side is positive, people in whom the right nostril flow is predominant evince positive characteristics, such as martial spirit and sometimes unusual aggressiveness. In certain males, unbridled sexual passion is the result of an excessive flow of the right nostril. 8. How are people affected when the flow of the left nostril is predominant? Because the left side is negative, people in whom the left nostril flow is predominant manifest negative characteristics, such as fear, timidity, submission, humbleness, obedience, etc., and also virtues such as truthfulness, kindness, benevolence, reverence, and spirituality. 9. Where do the Ida and Pingala nerves meet? The Ida and Pingala nerves begin in the left and right nostril respectively, pass through the cerebellum and medulla oblongata, run respectively along the left and the right side of the spinal cord, and end where they meet, viz., at the coccyx, or rudimentary human tail, the terminal triangular bone of the vertebral column. 10. When both nostrils are equally in flow, what happens? When the breath flow of both nostrils is equal, the gates of both of them lie ajar. Then the Ida and Pingala nerves are both fully active and carry their respective currents of etheric energy down to the spine at the same time. These currents, as they pass along, distribute their wealth among the different plexi of the sympathetic system, and carry what is left to the base of the spine, where they meet and supply prana, which is the yogi name for etheric energy, to the Sushumna canal or nerve, which runs through the central cavity of the spinal column from the base of the brain and connects with Pingala and Ida in the coccyx. Part 2. Levitating the astral body. This part tells you of a simple method by which many attract to themselves evils and misfortunes, others happiness and fortune, still others long life, or the reverse. This method has in all probability never heretofore been revealed. It also tells of the many mighty wonder workers in India and the methods by which they levitate their astral bodies or transport them at will to any desired location for the purpose of securing hidden information. This is another of the amazing secrets which has never heretofore been revealed. 1. Man is a magnet. Every magnet has two poles, the positive or north pole and the negative or south pole. If any magnet of any size having both these poles in one piece be cut into 2 or even into 200 pieces, each separate piece will be like the original magnet in also having the two poles. 2. All bar magnets suspended by their centers turn the one pole to the north and the other to the south. It is the law and is invariable. But the pole of the magnet which turns to the north is not actually the north pole, but the opposite, the south, for in magnetism like poles repel like. 3. The world is one huge magnet. 4. The magnet called man can be divided in 3 ways, in each of which he manifests the qualities of positive and negative poles. 5. Divide man into right half and left half, then the right half is the positive pole and the left half the negative. 6. Divide the body of man again into the upper part and the lower part. The upper part is the positive pole and the lower the negative. 7. Divide him again into what is called ventral side and dorsal side, and the ventral side is the positive and the dorsal side the negative. 8. Similarly, when we divide the earth into northern and southern hemispheres, the northern is the positive pole, and the southern the negative. 9. Again, when we divide the earth into eastern and western hemispheres, the eastern is the positive pole, while the western is the negative. 10. The Hindu sages discovered that when a person sleeps with the head towards the north-south, east or west, he attracts various conditions into his life, which depend upon the relation of his magnetic poles to those of the earth. 11. They taught that lying north and south brings peace and comfort and long life. Lying east and west bring about the reverse conditions. 12. Dr. Fair, in 1905, tested the theory for the French Biology Society and came to a similar conclusion. Recently, 2 other French engineers, W.M. Duchâtel and René Workelier, tested the theory and found it based on fact. They even went a step farther and decided that human beings not only must sleep from north to south, but must work from east to west. Without explaining whether the law is based upon magnetic terrestrial currents or the rotary movements of the earth, they concluded that all works executed by movements from north to south cause a useless waste of effort. They urge not only the turning of beds, but the moving of workshop tables in order to secure the best results. 13. During each lunar month, as the moon passes through the 12 signs of the zodiac, the negative etheric current shifts to another part of the body. It travels from the toes to the top of the head, and from the top of the head back again to the toes, making a complete circuit. The center of influence, or the part of the body at which the negative etheric current is concentrated, on each day, is said to be a vulnerable spot in the body on that day. 14. In the same way, during each lunar month, the focal center of the positive etheric current shifts from one part of the body to another, also making a complete circuit. 15. In fasting, when the stomach is deprived of food, air rushes into the stomach and fills the vacuum. The yogi believes that the filling up of the stomach with air helps to develop various spiritual powers, such as clairvoyance or power to heal. and for this purpose, some yogi actually drink or swallow air a number of times a day. This conscious swallowing of the air not only is beneficial, but also gives the person who practices it a control over the muscles of the gullet and the stomach. It is done in the following way. 16. Close the mouth and place the tongue touching the roof of the mouth just above the teeth. Inhale air through the nostrils and closing the glottis with the epiglottis. Swallow it or send it down the gullet by the action of the root of the tongue and the throat. 17. The yogi adepts of India have been far famed from earliest antiquity as mighty wonder workers. This is not Oriental fable, but truth pregnant with irrefutable proofs. In the balmy days of India, occultism was the rage of the elite of the land, and many a worthy son of Hindustan sacrificed his hearth and home for a serene spot in some sylvan solitude, to attain the highest achievement of adeptship on earth. 18. The wonderful fact of levitating the astral body and transporting it at will to any desired place by airy locomotion was said to be a common achievement of these adepts. Now for the method. 19. Surrounding this physical body of ours, there is an exact counterpart of our physical body, composed of an ethereal substance of a very high rate of vibration. It is neither mere matter, nor yet is it mere force. It is composed of something very fine, but far more tenacious than anything that is known as matter. 20. This akasa material of the body, in the science of the yogi, is the supersensitive substance which pervades all space and enters into all bodies. It is the body that is formed out of this substance, which is called the astral body. 21. Sit erect upon a chair placed on either a tiger skin or a deer skin or a rubber carpet or on a large, thick slab of glass, facing the east. Rest your feet lightly upon the skin or the plate of glass. 22. At the lower end of the Sushumna canal is the lotus of the Kundalini. It is triangular in form, and in the symbolical language of the yogis, there is situated a coiled-up power called the Kundalini. 23. When the Kundalini awakes, it tries to force a passage through this hollow canal, and as it arises step by step, layer after layer of the mind becomes open. Then visions and wonderful powers come to the yogi. When it reaches the brain, the yogi is perfectly detached from the body and mind. The soul finds itself free. 24. Write the figure 8 horizontally. We find that there are two parts connected in the middle. Go on piling this figure one on top of the other. This represents the spinal cord. The left is the Ida, and the right the Pingala, and the hollow canal which runs through the center of the spinal cord is the Sushumna. Where the spinal cord ends in some of the lumbar vertebrae, a fine fiber comes down, and the canal is even. 25. The canal is closed at the lower end, which is situated near the sacral plexus, which according to modern physiology is triangular in form. 26. Practice for 30 minutes daily the following exercise on rhythmic breathing. Close the right nostril with the right thumb and inhale through the left. Now close both the nostrils and retain and exhale through the left. Inhale counting 8 heartbeats. Retain counting 4 heartbeats. Exhale counting 8 heartbeats. Interval between breaths 4 heartbeats. That is in the proportion of 2. 2. After some practice, increase the time of each inhalation to 12, 16, and 24 heartbeats, increasing the time of retention, exhalation, and interval in the given proportion. 27. As you continue this exercise, you will, it is said, one day be raised up bodily into the air by some invisible power, i.e., by the power of stored-up prana. This is the first stage in levitation. 28. When this stage of spiritual development has been reached, you will experience little or no difficulty in projecting your astral body. 29. You have frequently experienced the elementary stages of projection, although you have not realized or recognized it as such. Have you not been half conscious of the body jerking and actually jumping when almost asleep? Have you not had the sensation of sinking, of dizziness, of floating, of whirling or vibrating under some conditions? 30. They are all the result of the psychic body being loosened from the physical, which naturally causes a disturbance of the nervous system. 31. When a child whirls, it becomes dizzy. Why? Because the psychic body has been loosened from the physical. It is a known fact that some of the yogi often whirl in order to project the astral body. 32. The Lord God formed man of the dust of the earth and breathed into his nostrils the breath of life, and man became a living soul. Consider this quotation from an esoteric viewpoint. The energy which is generated by the psychic body and which permeates the physical is prana, or the breath of life. Without such vibratory force, the body would return to the original earthly elements of which it is composed, dust to dust. 33. The astral is the vital part of us, the actual cloak of the soul. The physical is merely propelled by the astral energy and enables you to act upon the physical plane. 34. When the psychic body is out of its physical counterpart, it is connected with the physical by what mystics of all ages have called the silver cord. In reality, this cord is a current of energy similar in intensity to an electric current. It is of a grayish-white color and pulsates much as a living creature. In fact, as we observe this cord while in a projected state, it seems almost to be an alive, intelligent being. It is over an inch in diameter when the astral body is very close to the physical, although its luminosity makes its diameter appear wider. The cord becomes thinner and finer the farther from the physical the astral body goes. 35. The silver cord leaves the physical body at the forehead and connects with the psychic body at the back of the head. While the projection is relatively close to the physical, you will feel a throbbing at the back of the head and see a similar throbbing or pulsating in the cord. The cord is the medium by which the physical body is supplied with vital energy, while the psychic is out. 36. If the astral cord should be severed, death would immediately result, because the body would be cut off from a supply of life force. 37. While projected, you can also hold the breath, but this is very dangerous. It has caused death because it interferes with the rhythmic action of the cord, causing congestion in the physical body. This cord exerts quite a pull upon the psychic until a considerable distance separates the two bodies. It is true you must use willpower to advance beyond the force of the cord. If you succeed in advancing a good distance from the body, the pull gradually becomes less and less until there is no feeling at all from this source. 38. In the prolongation of life, the sages discovered that breath came first in point of importance, food second, and drink came third. After deep research in the mineral, plant, and animal kingdoms, they discovered many secrets that would enable them to rejuvenate and prolong life. They discovered that certain animals, such as birds, snakes, reptiles, frogs, deer, stags, etc., are able to rejuvenate themselves even without much food, because most of them depend upon air more than they do upon food and water. Often these animals are compelled to live for days without food or water. To compensate for this, they inflate their lungs fully with air and often hold the breath for some time. Air is for them food, water, and elixir of life. It is said that deer are able to breathe through every pore of their skin when running at lightning speed, and their ability to rejuvenate themselves by shedding their antlers and hair again and again compels us to conclude that there is some truth in this belief. 39. Thus it has been found that animals which inspire more air, either by design or as a natural requirement, are able to prolong life. Therefore, it is reasonable to think that man, who is also a breathing animal, could similarly remain ever young and also prolong life by the conscious control of breath. This has been put to the test by numberless yogi in India, and all of them affirm with one accord that by scientific control of the breath, anyone can retain health, renew youth, and prolong life. 40. Air is a combination of oxygen and nitrogen. Western scientists recognize the value of oxygen to all living beings. Without it, no life is possible upon Earth. But these same scientists hold that nitrogen is the enemy of life, and without oxygen, it is powerless to support life. This may be the truth, But without nitrogen, oxygen alone cannot support life. Otherwise, for what use did nature combine such a large percentage of nitrogen with other gases to form air? All things in nature have been so designed by an all-wise intelligence that if we care to look deeper into them, we discover that even the most trivial and useless thing serves a multiple of purposes in the laboratory of nature. 41. Nature is all-wise. It is our vision and knowledge that are circumscribed. 42. Scientists inform us that all the things we require could be obtained or extracted from the air. Thence all that we require for building and repairing our bodies must be present everywhere, and as the major portion of the ocean of the air is composed of nitrogen, much valuable substance for the building of living organisms must be found in its composition. Thus, breathing not only helps to oxygenize the blood, but also supplies the germs of building materials for making blood, cells, and tissues. Therefore, to prolong life, practice breathing daily for at least 15 minutes in fresh and fragrant air. 43. The yogis of India have been known from time immemorial to select shady spots under the banyan tree, Ficus indica. These trees, being situated in places far removed from the bustle and hum of busy cities or villages, are ideal places for their yogi practices. There are good reasons why they choose the shade of these particular trees for their yogi practices. 44. The banyan tree is known to be the longest-lived tree in the world. The age of the banyan tree is estimated at 5,000 years or more. The sap or the milk of this tree is full of the life-invigorating tissue and brain-building substance, phosphorus. The sages have recommended the milk of this tree as a sure and simple remedy for all sexual weaknesses. 45. The leaves of this tree contain milk, and it is said that a few leaves are sufficient as food for a yogi each day. It is known that some of the yogis entirely depend upon the leaves and fruits of this tree for their sustenance. Now you have another of the secrets, which keeps the yogis ever young and strong and full of sex force, which they transmute for building better brain and for attaining various spiritual powers. 46. Though the Western student is not in a position to use the milk of the banyan tree as is done by some of the yogis, yet I can recommend a simple preparation which may be used as a substitute, and by which you may perpetuate health and long life. 47. Both Occidental and Oriental students will find no difficulty in preparing and using this simple compound. The preparation is called ghee. 48. The method of preparing ghee is: heat fresh butter until every trace of water evaporates from it. The residue is an oil which is called ghee. Ghee can be preserved in a corked bottle for quite a time. Mix this ghee with honey in the proportion of 2 parts of butter to 1 part of honey. Use a tablespoonful morning and evening each day. The use of this preparation not only confers health and long life upon the user, but also helps to develop spirituality. Not only the Hindus, but we learn that some of the Jewish prophets were in the habit of using this preparation. John the Baptist, who had a gigantic physique, used honey as part of his food. In the Bible, we find the following words: "Butter and honey shall he eat, that he may know to refuse the evil and choose the good." Isaiah chapter 7:15. 49. Part 3 contains an exercise which is designed to assist you in bringing about your material desires through the power of creative thought. It also tells how the fair sex are attracted by the magnetism of the male, and how by the radiation of a subtle magnetism and the allure of her sex, sometimes called charm, woman captures the hearts of men. Part 2. Study questions with answers. 1. Man as a magnet manifests the qualities of positive and negative poles. If we divide man into right half and left half, which is positive and which the negative? The right half of man is the positive pole and the left half the negative pole. 2. If we divide man into upper half and lower half, which is the positive and which the negative? The upper part of man is the positive pole, and the lower half the negative. 3. If we divide man into ventral side and dorsal side, which is the positive and which is the negative? The ventral side of man is the positive, and the dorsal side the negative. 4. Which part of the earth is the positive and which is the negative? If we divide the earth into northern and southern hemispheres, the northern is the positive pole and the southern the negative. Similarly, if we divide the earth into eastern and western hemispheres, the eastern is the positive pole and the western is the negative. 5. What is the lesson to be learned from this? The lesson imparted by due observance of magnetic factors is that human beings attract various conditions into their lives which depend upon the relation of their own magnetic poles to those of the earth. 6. What is prana? Prana is the energy which is generated by the psychic body and which permeates the physical body, being extracted from the electrons in the ether through the act of breathing and transmitted to the sympathetic plexi of the body via the Ida and Pingala nerves. Prana is a vibratory force which holds the elements of the body together and prevents dust from returning to dust. Another name for prana is the breath of life. 7. What is the astral body? The astral is the vital part of each human being. It is the actual cloak of the soul. Our physical bodies are materialized by astral energy and can thus act on the physical plane of existence. The astral body is an exact counterpart of the physical body and is composed of ethereal substance at a very high rate of vibration. It surrounds the physical body, being neither mere matter nor mere force. It is each individual's psychic body, which adepts are able not to detach, but to project from the physical body to varying distances, the connection being more or less tenuously maintained through a current of energy which mystics term the silver cord. Were this astral cord severed, death would immediately result. 8. How may we assist in prolonging life? We may assist in prolonging life by the conscious control of breath. By scientific control of the breath, health can be retained, youth renewed, and life prolonged. 9. What do the yogi use ghee for? The yogi use ghee to perpetuate health, prolong life, and to develop spirituality. 10. How is it prepared? To prepare ghee, heat fresh butter until every trace of water is evaporated from it, leaving a residue of oil which is called ghee. Keep ghee is a well-corked bottle. To use it, mix 2 parts of ghee to 1 of honey, and take a tablespoonful morning and evening each day. Part 3. Kundalini, the serpent power. This part tells where the masculine, fiery and positive etheric forces come from and how they are distributed to all parts of the body. It also tells where the feminine, sympathetic and negative forces come from and how they are distributed to every part of the body. It tells what happens when the positive and negative forces meet. It tells of the power to create, preserve and destroy. It tells of that force, which in symbolical language is called the Garden of Eden, the Tree of Life and the Tree of Knowledge, and how the force sometimes leads downward to unrestrained lust and death, and how it may be forced upward to supernal heights of power and spirituality. This is another of the amazing secrets of the yogi. 1. The Pingala nerve or the right nostril flow may properly be termed the solar nerve. Just as we depend upon the sun for energy and heat, so the body depends upon the flow of the right nostril for energy and heat to carry out its functions. 2. This nerve is masculine and fiery in character. It carries currents of solar energy only, or positive etheric electrons. It is the guardian or ruler of the right half of the body. 3. It also rules over the upper portion of the body, when we divide the body into lower and upper parts. 4. When we otherwise divide the body into 2 parts, such as the front, ventral side, and the back, dorsal side, it rules the front or ventral side. 5. The Ida nerve or the left nostril flow may properly be termed the lunar nerve. It is feminine and cold in character like the moon. 6. It regulates distribution of the fluids within the body and keeps down excessive heat. These are the 2 most important works, which are performed by the flow of this nerve. The Ida nerve carries only currents of negative etheric electrons. When it is in flow, the sense of smell will be very keen. It is the ruler or guardian of the left half of the body, and also of the lower and back parts of the body. 7. The Sushumna nerve, or equal flow of both nostrils, is neutral, destructive, and malevolent in character, though it may be given the power to lift one to Himalayan heights of spiritual beatitudes. 8. The power to create, preserve, or destroy lies dormant within it. This is the meeting place of the positive current of human electricity, which runs down the Pingala nerve, and the negative current of human electricity, which runs down the Ida nerve. 9. It is the balance which weighs the solar fluid and the lunar fluid within the body. At the lower extremity is the sleeping and coiled-up serpent power called Kundalini, which working downwards leads to unrestrained lust and death, but if forced upwards, leads to supernal heights of spirituality. 10. This is the serpent which deceived Eve in the Garden of Eden, but the same power working upwards led Jesus to power. 11. The nerves which branch off downwards to the sex organs from the lower extremity of the spine form what is in symbolical language called the tree of knowledge of good and evil, while the Sushumna nerve, which leads upwards to the brain, is spoken of in the Bible as the tree of life. 12. At the base of the spine is what is known as the sacral or pelvic plexus. To the clairvoyant is visible at this spot in the astral body a glowing cross or a round plate divided into quadrants of orange-red color. This is in biblical language the cherubim with the flaming sword, which turns every way to guard the tree of life. 13. The flow of the Sushumna nerve is likened to fire and death by the yogi, because it is at the time of its flow that all sorts of accidents, evils, and failures happen. 14. You should always have your meals when the right nostril is in flow, because it is the positive etheric currents that go down the Pingala nerve that create heat and energy to digest all solid food. It is the flow of this nostril that gives one appetite and hunger. If the right nostril does not flow when you have your meals, cause it to flow by the method given. If you follow this rule, you will never suffer from indigestion or other stomach troubles. 15. In man, when the right nostril is flowing, the sex element is active and predominant. At such times, the fair sex is naturally attracted by the magnetism of the male, and the male naturally seeks the company of the female. If at such times men engage in courtship, they will derive full success and happiness. 16. The right nostril flow tends to increase the temperature of the body. Therefore, when you feel chilly, cause your right nostril to flow. When bathing or washing the body, see that your right nostril is flowing, because bathing in cool or cold water tends to reduce the temperature of the body. 17. The moon has influence over the water constituents of the body, and therefore the flow of the lunar nerve greatly aids the absorption and distribution of liquids which enter the stomach. 18. The moon governs and controls the sexual manifestations of the fair sex. Therefore, at the tune when the left nostril is flowing in woman, her sexual impulses are at a high pitch. At such times she radiates a subtle magnetism, which combined with the allure of her sex, can capture the hearts of men. 19. Therefore, the Hindu sages have enjoined that women should engage in love discourses or sexual unions at the time when their left nostril flows, in order to derive success and a full measure of happiness. 20. Unbridled sexual passion in some women is the result of an excessive flow of the left nostril, because the sex functions in women are dependent upon the left nostril flow. 21. Do all sorts of works and actions which require your undivided concentrated attention when the left nostril is flowing, as then your mind will naturally be in an unruffled and receptive state. 22. When you are tired, when you are in grief, when you sympathize with others, or when giving advice to others, it will be good to cause your left nostril to flow, for then it will minimize the evils and produce good. 23. Success or gain in all worthy undertakings, receipt of good news, and all other good results take place mostly when the left nostril is flowing. 24. When the Sushumna nerve or both nostrils are equally flowing, No mundane matters, either good or bad, should be commenced, for then they would end in failure. All disasters, accidents, and failures happen when both nostrils are equally flowing, for any happening of this sun is the outcome of tremendous forces within man, but beyond his control. 25. This is true because at the time when both nostrils flow equally, more prana is generated within the body than at any other time. 26. But at the time when such flow occurs, if this creative energy is consciously harnessed, man can do marvelous things. In order to convert the evil effect of Sushumna flow into a blessing, the yogi are enjoined to practice meditation, concentration, affirmation, and other exercises which develop the spiritual side at the time of such flow. 27. The flow of Sushumna occurs in 2 or more different ways, and you should note this carefully. When the time comes for the flow of breath to change from one nostril to the other, it sometimes happens that simultaneously both nostrils begin to flow equally for about 5 minutes, and then abruptly change to the other. That is one way. 28. The second way is as follows. A few breaths, let us say 3, flow from the right nostril, and then 3 breaths from the left nostril, and so forth in succession for about 10 minutes. Finally, the breath changes to the other nostril. This second way of the flow of Sushumna is rather rare, and breath scientists lay special stress upon it. They assert that blessings given when the flow occurs as described will have dynamic power to bring about desired results. The blessing should be uttered during the few seconds when the right nostril flows, or every time it begins to flow. This is a guarded secret of the yogi. 29. Now for the explanation. When this kind of flow takes place, positive etheric currents and negative etheric currents run alternately down the right and left sides of the spine, and upon meeting, they produce a tornado of prana, which gives extra intensity to the thoughts which emanate from the mind at the time. It is also a known fact that the right nostril flow is better suited for all activities of the conscious mind, while the left nostril flow is more favorable for subconscious activities. That is why the time of the right nostril flow is recommended for impressing the desire upon the conscious mind, while during the left nostril flow, you are required to remain quiet, to allow your thoughts to be conferred from the conscious to the subconscious mind, PM, for immediate action to result. 30. Regarding this, we sometimes hear of persons who are said to have the fatal gift of what is known as sorcery. The things they pronounce, whether curses or blessings, have immediate effect. Now, what is this subtle power which invests their thoughts with such quick results? It cannot be anything but an unnatural flow of the Sushumna occurring frequently during each day. 31. Yogis are in the habit of practicing alternate rhythmic breathing before they project thought either to heal or to bless someone far or near. This imparts the required degree of power to their thought. But in ordinary rhythmic breathing, we inhale 1 breath from each nostril at a time. Therefore, if by design we could cause the Sushumna to flow as required, we should obtain still quicker results by coupling breathing with affirmation and the visualization of our desires. 32. This seems to be the cosmic law which governs the creative word. 33. The actions of the 3 processes involving breathing are inhaling, retaining, and exhaling. The Pingala and Ida nerves arrest the minute etheric particles and carry them down the spine in a current only when the air passes through the nasal passage while inhaling. Therefore, the best time to impress your desires upon the subconscious mind is at the time of inhaling, for then the thought which emanates from the brain will be carried along the etheric current. 34. Once the air enters the lungs, the etheric current ceases to flow, and the air can only oxygenate the blood in the lungs. Therefore, the retaining of the breath does not help to store up etheric energy. But at the time of retaining the breath, the mind can easily be held one-pointed, so that there is some benefit in impressing your thoughts upon the mind at this tune. 35. Therefore, when you want to store up more prana, practice alternate rhythmic breathing, inhaling and exhaling very slowly, but without retaining the breath. But when you want to oxygenate the blood as well as store up prana, as much as you can, you may practice the same exercise and retain the breath. 36. The following exercise has been designed on the lines of the Sushumna flow in order to help you to materialize your desires by the use of creative thought. 37. Close the right nostril and inhale a breath through the left nostril. Exhale the breath slowly without retaining, and then inhale again through the left nostril and exhale. 38. Take either 3, 4, 5, 6, or even 7 breaths through the same nostril. Now close the left nostril and inhale through the right an equal number of breaths as before. All the time when you breathe through the right nostril, affirm, desire, or visualize your wants. 39. When you have finished the required number of breaths through that nostril, breathe through the other as before. Observe number, rhythm, and balance. You should affirm, desire, or visualize only when you breathe through the right nostril, and be quiet when breathing through the left. Practice this for about 10 minutes. 40. Thus you may say, by entertaining thoughts of the kind which you desire to blossom forth in your life, and by shutting out those which tend to defeat your purpose in life, obtain quick and permanent results. 41. Therefore, the most important thing to be observed by all those who desire to master fate is to shut out all thoughts of disease, misfortune, poverty, etc., even if such conditions make their appearance, and substitute thoughts of health, success, wealth, and happiness. 42. Every effort you make, every desire you entertain for attaining your goal, will assist in attracting the conditions you desire. 43. It is the thoughts and desires which you have perhaps unconsciously entertained that are responsible for attracting this volume of Yogi secrets to yourself. 44. With the scepter of power that these teachings place in your hands, you can beat out a pathway to health, success, and the life abundant. 45. Part 4 will reveal the dearest and brightest gem in this diadem of Yogi power, the most precious jewel in this mysterious necklet of cryptic wisdom. Part 3. Study questions with answers. 1. What nerve controls the right side of the body? The Pingala nerve governing the right nostril flow of breath controls the positive poles of the body, and therefore controls the right side of the body, which is a positive pole. 2. What kind of energy does it carry? The Pingala nerve carries currents of solar energy only, viz., the positive etheric electrons, which are positive or masculine and fiery in character. 3. What nerve controls the left side of the body? The Ida nerve, governing the left nostril flow of breath, controls the negative poles of the body, and therefore controls the left side of the body, which is a negative pole. 4. What kind of energy does it carry? The Ida nerve carries only currents of negative etheric electrons, which are feminine and cold in character. 5. Where is the Kundalini located? The Kundalini is situated in the lower extremity of the spine. 6. What is this sometimes called? The Kundalini is sometimes called the tree of knowledge of good and evil. It is the serpent power which, if it works downwards, leads to unrestrained lust and death, but if it forces its power upwards, leads to supernal heights of spirituality. 7. What is the Sushumna canal sometimes called? The Sushumna canal, or nerve, is sometimes called the tree of life. 8. When do disasters, failures, and accidents usually occur? Disasters, failure, and accidents usually occur at the time of the nostril flow of the Sushumna nerve, i.e., when the right and left nostril flow of breath is occurring equally and concurrently. At such times, evil happenings are the outcome of tremendous forces within man, but beyond his immediate conscious control. 9. Why is this? Because the equal and concurrent breath flow of both nostrils is neutral, destructive, and malevolent in character, unless the Kundalini has been schooled by prior training of the subconscious to act spontaneously upwards through the Sushumna nerve instead of downwards. 10. What are the 3 processes involved in breathing? The three processes involved in breathing are inhaling, retaining, and exhaling. When you inhale, your thoughts are carried in with the stream of pranic energy. Affirm, desire, or visualize your wants when you breathe through the right nostril. Keep quiet when you breathe through the left nostril. When you retain the breath, your main object is to oxygenate the blood and help to feed it with nitrogen. But during retention, benefit will result from continuing the thoughts held while inhaling. Part 4. Breath, the elixir of life. This part tells you how the Indian yogis retain buoyant health, rugged strength and charm of personality, and postpone old age, decay, and death indefinitely. Neither Hindu science nor modern methods have as yet discovered any method which can permanently defeat consuming age. But science does teach that old age is due to a slackening of the functions of the vital organs, and the yogi found that as man passes the prime of life, certain influences begin to work, which could be changed and modified. This part tells how they do this. It is another of the valuable secrets of the yogi. 1. Every form of disease brings about a disturbance in the balance between the flow of the right and the left nostril. 2. The cure lies in restoring the balance. 3. If you suffer from any disease, it should be your aim to make a careful study of your breath flow. 4. Breathing accomplishes many vital functions of the body. 5. It not only oxygenizes the blood, but it also stores up pranic energy. 6. It not only coordinates the positive and negative electromagnetic currents of the body, but also attracts desirable or undesirable conditions into our lives by the operation of the magnetic law of attraction and repulsion. 7. Modern scientists hold that all things we require for building and repairing our bodies are held in solution in the ether. If this be so, every time we breathe, we must draw from the air oxygen and from the ether nourishment. 8. This has been demonstrated time and again by the Indian yogis who live for days or months without food, retaining buoyant health, rugged strength, and charm of personality. 9. Our very lives depend upon breathing. Is it then too much to think that life might be prolonged indefinitely if the act of breathing could be prolonged indefinitely? 10. If disease can be prevented by a scientific control of the breath flow, then surely old age, decay, and death may be indefinitely postponed by a scientific control of the breath, coupled with proper dieting and with the practice of spiritual bodybuilding exercises. 11. This is not a new theory, but on the contrary, in India, today, there are living examples of yogis whose ages range from 200 to 500 years or more. Do you believe this? 12. First and foremost, you should know that every kind of disease is the result of some disturbance in the balance of the two electromagnetic currents, the positive and the negative, due to external causes. Therefore, if we can restore the balance between these two currents and can also remove the physical or mental causes which brought about the disease will then disappear. 13. The proper balancing of the positive and the negative electromagnetic currents, as nature intended, will produce prana to meet every demand of the body. But an excessive flow of one of these currents results in a proportionately less flow of the other. This does not produce enough prana, because, like electricity, prana is produced by the union of the positive current with a proportionate amount of the negative current. 14. Disease in most of us is due to a waste of prana generated in the body. Complete relaxation of the body during sleep and several times during the day will conserve the prana generated in the body. 15. Thoughts of happiness, hope, faith, courage, and strength tend to conserve prana, while thoughts of sorrow, fear, and worry tend to deplete the prana generated in the body. 16. A sudden shock of fear results in a cold, uncanny thrill passing down the spine of a person. Who, when young, has not experienced shock from seeing some imaginary ghost, or been shocked by fear arising from some more solid cause? What is the secret of this? It is nothing less than the depletion of the whole supply of prana from the system. The cold thrill experienced along the spinal column is certain indication of prana oozing out of the spine. 17. All sorts of stomach troubles, such as indigestion, flatulence, chronic dyspepsia, diarrhea, dysentery, cholera, etc., occur when the left nostril is in flow, and often after a protracted flow of the left nostril. The cure lies in closing the left nostril and allowing the right nostril to flow till the symptoms disappear. 18. To hasten the cure, you may place the palm of the right hand or the fleshy portion of the forearm just below the elbow on the pit of the stomach, and take 15 to 20 deep breaths through the right nostril, retaining the breath as long as you can. You will feel currents of prana coursing through the region of the stomach before the lapse of 3 minutes. 19. All lung troubles such as asthma, catarrh, and consumption are due to a protracted flow of the left nostril daily for months or years, while the flow of the right nostril occurs only occasionally. In order to effect a cure, keep the left nostril closed during the greater part of the day. In addition, take good nourishing food to build up the weakened system. 20. To cure constipation and its attendant disease piles, make it a point to drink a glass of water before retiring, and also early in the morning, and keep your left nostril closed for about half an hour before your usual time for easing the bowels. Thus you will have free motion. 21. Paralysis is due to a longer flow of either of the two nostrils during each day, while diabetes is characterized by a longer flow of the right nostril daily. 22. Neurasthenia and impotency in males are attended by a predominant flow of the left nostril. By keeping the left nostril closed for a greater part of the day, and by taking nourishing diet, these diseases could be cured. While neurasthenia in females is, I believe, attended by a predominant flow of the right nostril, as the sex principle in women is governed by the flow of the left nostril. 23. As you read through these lines which disclose to you how to conquer all disease by a natural, scientific, and simple process, which had eluded the minds of the most contemplative sages of all other climes, and in all ages, I hear you ask, what remedy have the yogi adepts to offer for the cure of old age and death? Well, this is, indeed, a question of supreme importance to all who are now spiritually awakened, as it had been from a far distant age, to the yogi adepts of India, who have studied the mystery of life from more angles than the Western men of science know today. 24. They faced this question of questions foursquare, and after as much as or more psychical searching than Western alchemists gave to their futile search for the elixir of life, they finally discovered means and methods by which they could defer old age and death, the twin enemies of mankind. 25. An occasional visitor to the sylvan solitudes, situated in the high Himalayas, where live the yogi adepts, informs us that there are today yogis whose ages range from 200 years to 500 or even more. 26. If this is true, it is proof positive that they are in possession of secrets unknown to others, by which they can prolong life far beyond the dreams of scientific men. 27. But the modus operandi has remained a deep mystery to all up to the present. 28. You will now be entrusted with this dearest and brightest jewel in the diadem of yogi power, the finest of all the gems in this mysterious necklet of cryptic wisdom. 29. But guard it as you should guard these eternal truths of life, from falling into the hands of the vulgar. Seal your lips with the seal of silence. 30. Deep in the recess of the heart of every spiritually awakened individual is an insatiable longing to prolong the span of life indefinitely, free from the ravages of declining years. 31. But even those who have enjoyed in their prime of life perfect health, vibrant with supreme life force, lament in sorrow when they witness their once rosy cheeks, the vigor and virility of their youth, the charm and magnetism of their personality, and the pulsating life force, which thrilled and animated every atom of their being, forsaking them little by little as the unfriendly years pass by. 32. Science has not as yet discovered any method or methods which could permanently defeat the signs of consuming age. 33. But science teaches us that old age is due to a slackening of the functions of various vital organs and glands of the body, owing either to an insufficient amount of energy being generated within the body for the perfect functioning of all the organs, or the dissipation by careless living of energy generated within the body. 34. The imperfect functioning of all the vital organs results in imperfect assimilation of the necessary elements for repairing and rebuilding the body, and an imperfect elimination of waste matter from the system. These signs precede old age and death, and no medicine or nourishing food or other scientific device known to man has been able successfully to banish the ravages of old age and scare away the demon of death. 35. The yogi know that as man passes the prime of life, the influence of the moon begins to tell more and more upon the human organism as the years roll on. This influence of the moon affects the breath flow, and the flow of the left nostril begins to predominate little by little, each day, each year. The decreased flow of the right nostril results consequently in imperfect digestion and assimilation, and signs of old age and decay begin to register upon the human organism. 36. Therefore, a proper balancing of the etheric currents energized by the solar rays and the etheric currents energized by the lunar rays or polarized light from the sun could retard signs of old age and decay, provided man tries to preclude all things that tend to dissipate energy and lives a life of purity and chastity. 37. Now I shall explain the method by which the yogi retain evergreen youth and prolong life indefinitely. From sunrise to sunset during the day, these yogis keep the right nostril closed, allowing the breath to flow only through the left nostril. And from sunset to sunrise or during the night, they keep the left nostril closed, allowing the breath to flow only through the right nostril. 38. By a careful and systematic practice of this method, they arrest all decay, retain everlasting youth, and defy even death. But the follower of this method is strictly enjoined to observe chastity and the conservation of the reproductive fluid, for without so doing, it would be difficult to control the breath as desired. 39. There is logic, science, and philosophy in this method. The two luminaries, the sun and the moon, govern every incident in the life cycle of a human being. The sun's influence is greater during the day, when it gives light and heat, while the moon's influence is greater during the night. By causing the lunar nerve to flow during the day and the solar nerve to flow during the night, the evil effects of these luminaries are neutralized and their corroding influences checked. Thus, all decay of the body is stopped, and it is rejuvenated and regenerated as the years roll by. 40. Now you have the method followed by those who have succeeded in scaling this well-nigh impossible height. If you care to, you may attempt to reach it. And blessed are they who are willing to make the sacrifice, for the prize is indeed worth the cost. Part 4. Study questions with answers. 1. What is the result of every form of disease? Every form of disease brings about a disturbance in the balance between the flow of the right and the left nostril. 2. Why is this true? Because if we restore the balance, we effect a cure. To do this involves making a special study of the breath flow. 3. How may sick diseases be cured? Diseases may be cured by the proper balancing of the positive and the negative electromagnetic currents, as nature intended, which will produce prana to meet every demand of the body. 4. How can this be accomplished? The electromagnetic currents may be balanced by closing the nostril that influences the disease and protracting the flow through the opposite nostril. The right or positive nostril is generally the one through which to direct the major flow for the cure of disease, although the left or negative flow should be protracted in the case of some diseases which are attended by a predominant flow of the right nostril. 5. What other important function does breathing accomplish? Breathing accomplishes many vital functions of the body. It oxygenizes the blood. More than that, it stores up pranic energy. It coordinates the positive and negative electromagnetic currents of the body and attracts desirable conditions into our lives by the operation of the magnetic law of attraction and repulsion. From the air we draw oxygen, from the ether nourishment. 6. Is it possible that old age, decay, and even death may be indefinitely postponed by a scientific control of the breath. It is possible to postpone indefinitely old age, decay, and even death by scientific control of the breath, coupled with proper dieting and with the practice of spiritual bodybuilding exercises. In India today, there are living yogis whose ages range from 200 years to 500 years or more. 7. What is the cause of many chronic diseases? Many chronic diseases are caused by a too protracted flow of the left nostril continued during months or years. 8. How can this be remedied? The remedy for such diseases is to close the left nostril and protract the flow of breath through the right nostril. 9. What is the usual cause of neurasthenia in women? The usual cause of neurasthenia in women is a predominant flow through the right nostril, because the sex principle in women, contrary to that in men, is governed by the flow of the left nostril. Consequently, in women, neurasthenia can be eliminated by cultivating the left nostril flow. 10. What remedy have the yogi to offer for the cure of old age and death? To retain evergreen youth and prolong life indefinitely, the yogis keep the right nostril closed from sunrise to sunset during the day, while from sunset to sunrise during the night, they keep the left nostril closed. By thus causing the lunar nerve Ida to flow during the day and the solar nerve Pingala to flow during the night, the evil effect of each luminary are neutralized. Thus all decay of the body is stopped and it is rejuvenated and regenerated as the years roll on. Concurrently with this control of the breathing, the yogis observe chastity and conserve their reproductive energies, which intensifies the good effects of the breath control. Part 5. Control of life. Part 5 tells you how the ancient yogis of India have acquired the wisdom by which they can manipulate the invisible forces of nature and thus seem to work miracles, how they use the mind as an aerial to receive the unspoken thoughts of others, how they retain health, virility, and evergreen youth, and prolong life indefinitely. 1. Yoga is an ancient philosophy of India. 2. A yogi is one who makes a practice of that philosophy. 3. An adept is a yogi who has become proficient in the practice of that philosophy. 4. A master is a yogi who has apparently conquered the forces of nature and thus seems to work miracles, although he is simply putting into practice universal laws which he has come to understand. 5. He has acquired the wisdom with which to manipulate the invisible forces of nature. 6. He knows that the invisible controls the visible, that it is the mind that controls the man, the steam that controls the engine, the electrical reactions which control most of the industrial processes in the world today. 7. The objective is the visible, the subjective is the invisible. The objective and subjective mutually interact upon each other, but the power is in the subjective. There can be no changes in the objective without change first occurring in the subjective. 8. Man, if he will, can, even in the most antagonistic environment, rise above all external influences, and this is one of the greatest and most important teachings of occultism. 9. Yoga is the science which develops the capacity of the human mind to respond to higher vibrations. 10. In fact, it makes one a receiving as well as a broadcasting station of radioactivity, with the mind as the aerial. 11. One can thus receive the unspoken thoughts of others from any distance. 12. One can also broadcast one's own thoughts and thus assist others to rise spiritually, or guide them when they are in difficulty. 13. All the miracles performed by the long line of saints, saviors, and sages of all times and in all climes were due to the knowledge of yoga, the grandest of all sciences. 14. It is the science which leads the initiate by easy gradations to the loftiest height of self-realization, until he stands face to face with the object of his search. 15. What the Western world calls ether, the yogi calls prana. 16. Prana is the substance from which and by which is evolved everything that we call energy, power, or force. 17. The ability to understand the laws governing this prana, therefore, opens the door to unlimited possibilities. 18. With breath, physical life begins, and with breath, physical life ends. The breath, therefore, controls life, or the internal nature. 19. The first inhalation infuses life, and the infant becomes a living entity. On the wings of the last exhalation, the spark of life departs, leaving behind a cold corpse of what was a little while ago, a child, a youth, or an aged person. 20. These facts reveal that breathing, which we regard as a commonplace thing, and which is shared by all living things, is a subject of supreme importance, which deserves the most earnest study of every enlightened person. 21. More than 30 centuries ago, the sages of India discovered that not only life, but health, longevity, wisdom, spiritual attainment, and success depend upon certain processes which are governed by immutable cosmic laws. 22. They discovered the causes of the external effects of breath upon the physical organism. Then, after a detailed study of the laws governing breath, they were able to bring about desired effects by an intelligent control of breath. 23. By the control of the breath, they retain health, virility, and evergreen youth. They attain to all wisdom and sublimated heights of spiritual grandeur, and they are able to prolong life indefinitely, until they no longer want to live. 24. The internal nature is in direct contact with all nature, all persons, and all things, and for this reason, he who conquers the internal nature controls the whole universe. It becomes his servant. 25. The lessons in the parts of this volume will give you the various methods of gaining control of the internal nature. 26. Higher forces than we know in physical nature will be subdued. The body is but the externalization of the mind. Mind and body are not different things. They are but two aspects of one thing. 27. The physical body is an electrical dynamo, and the astral body is simply the magnetic field of the individual. And the Hindu sages, after much investigation and experimentation, found that the planetary vibrations, which reach us in invisible waves of different wavelengths, change the polarity and valency of the astral body, which controls all subconscious activities of the physical body. 28. They also found that a change in the polarity and valency of the astral body causes a radical and contemporaneous change in the breath flow. Thus, it was discovered that the vibratory energy which emanates from the planets regulates the flow of the breath. 29. This in turn affects all other subconscious activities, which brings about similar changes in the thought of the individual. 30. The change in thought influences the operation of the magnetic law of attraction and repulsion. Thus, the person is drawn into a different environment where he meets with failure or success, sorrow or happiness, loss or gain, disease or health. 31. The Yogi sages discovered that every thought changes the polarity and valency of the astral body. 32. As it is possible to regulate the thought activities, a scepter of power has been placed in the hands of those who are initiated into the mysteries of yogi philosophy, by which they can become the architects of their own fortune and consciously control their health, conditions, and experiences. 33. Let us see just how this is done. In the first place, rhythmical breathing causes all the molecules in the body to take the same direction. This induces an electrical current which changes mind into will, because the nerves show polarity under the action of electric currents. 34. When all the motions of the body have become perfectly rhythmical, the body has become a gigantic battery of will. This tremendous will is exactly what the yogi wants, because will is concentrated thought, which impregnates the astral body. 35. The astral body, being composed of ethereal substance of a very high rate of vibration, is in direct contact with all other ethereal substance and with every other astral body in the same rate of vibration, just as a radio receiver can be attuned to any vibrations in the ether of the same wavelength. 36. Thus, the internal forces control not only the body, but all external conditions and experiences. 37. It then becomes evident that by control of the internal or mental, it becomes a simple matter to control the external or material. 38. We have heretofore neglected this finer internal nature. We have looked at things from the outside rather than from within. We have found it easier to accept conditions than to resist them. 39. In the development of the inner nature, the perceptions get finer and finer until we begin to realize that we are in touch with a realm of consciousness, which perhaps we may not have known was in existence. 40. A recognition of your inner or spiritual nature is essential before progress of any kind can be made, because such recognition is necessary in order that you may come into an understanding of the creative power of thought, whereby you will be enabled to set the law into operation. 41. The affirmation at the end of this Part 5 has been prepared to assist you in bringing about any ideal in life which you may have. 42. In making use of the affirmation, sit erect but comfortably with both feet on the floor, spine straight, and hold the thought in mind for at least 10 minutes to the exclusion of every other thought. Do this night and morning, twice a day. At first you will find it difficult, but it will gradually become easier until the process becomes natural and finally almost automatic. 43. The continuous practice of this exercise will have a most wonderful influence upon your life, because every condition, physical, mental, or environmental, must gradually change so as to be in harmony with the thought which you hold in mind. 44. But the affirmation will be of no value to you unless you use it, and the value will depend entirely upon the time and effort which you give to the work. If you take time to make use of this affirmation, you will find that you have plenty of time for everything else. I did not have time are the 5 most dangerous words in the English language. They mark the dividing line between success and failure for hundreds of millions of human beings. The successful man has plenty of time. He is never in a hurry. He knows that there is no occasion for haste. He, therefore, gives his entire thought to the work which he has on hand. 45. If you concentrate upon the thoughts given, if you give them your entire attention, you will find a world of meaning in each sentence, and will attract to yourself other thoughts in harmony with them, and you will soon grasp the full significance of the vital knowledge upon which you are concentrating. 46. Knowledge does not apply itself. You as an individual must make the application, and the application consists in fertilizing the thought with a living purpose. 47. The time and thought which most persons waste in aimless effort would accomplish wonders if properly directed with some special object in view. In order to do this, it is necessary to center your mental force upon a specific thought and hold it there, to the exclusion of all other thoughts. 48. If you have ever looked through the focusing screen of a camera, you found that when the object was not in focus, the impression was indistinct and possibly blurred, but when the proper focus was obtained, the picture was clear and distinct. 49. This illustrates the power of concentration. Unless you can concentrate upon the subject which you have in view, you will have but a hazy, indifferent, vague, indistinct, and blurred outline of your ideal, and the results will be in accordance with your mental picture. Affirmations. 50. Spirit is one and indivisible. A part cannot be where the whole is not. I am therefore the same in kind and quality as the whole. The only difference is one of degree. I am spirit and am therefore whole, perfect, strong, powerful, loving, harmonious, and happy. 51. Spirit is the real elixir of life, the philosopher's stone, the fountain of life eternal, the transforming power which changes to golden truth all that seemed dark and mysterious in the past. I am therefore enabled to express my highest desires in word and deed to and for humanity. 52. Spirit is the only creator there is. I am therefore constantly renewing, recreating, and regenerating my body from day to day, atom by atom, from food, water, and air, and am therefore ever new, vigorous, and youthful, and can pursue my daily activities with ease and pleasure. 53. Spirit is omnipresent and is all life, strength, and power. I am therefore constantly creating my own environment, and this environment is wholesome, uplifting, agreeable, inspiring, and has great opportunities for all human achievement. 54. Spirit possesses the power to think. I, therefore, create my body, my environment, my income, by what I think. I am, for this reason, very careful to think abundance for myself and everyone else. 55. Spirit is omniscient. I can therefore readily determine what course to pursue in any emergency, and am at all times loyal, tactful, alert, contented, and considerate. 56. Spirit is omnipotent. I, therefore, never let the sun go down without having made a special effort to help someone, somewhere, somehow. 57. I rest well, sleep well, and arise refreshed and invigorated and cheerfully assume the duties and responsibilities that await me. 58. The next part will tell you of the 8 steps to mastery. With the last step, you become peaceful and calm, never again to feel any pain, never again to be deluded, never again to feel miserable. Breathing, which we are apt to regard as a commonplace thing, and which is shared by all living things, is a subject of supreme importance, which deserves the most earnest study of every enlightened person. With breath, physical life begins, and with breath, physical life ends. The breath, therefore, controls life, or the internal nature. The internal nature is in direct contact with all nature, all persons, and all things. And for this reason, he who conquers the internal nature controls the whole universe. It becomes his servant. This volume teaches the various methods of gaining this control. Part 6. The 8 Steps to Mastery. This part tells you of the several steps which it is necessary to take in order to become a yogi. It tells you how the yogi attracts things to himself. It tells you of the harmonious assimilation of all there is, and the perpetuation of all that is good for the nobler ends of life. It tells you of meditation, concentration, of Greek culture and Hindu spirituality. 1. Raja Yoga, literally royal yoga, is the science of conquering the internal nature or realizing the divinity within. This process is divided into 8 steps. First step, yama. 2. Truthfulness, compassion to life, non-killing, non-stealing, non-robbing, temperance. 3. The harmonious assimilation of all there is in the world, in such a manner that it will not exhaust the vital energy of life or the resources at one's command, but will perpetuate all that is good for the nobler ends of life in a qualitative manner. Second step, niyama. 4. Cleanliness, contentment, the surrender to an ideal. The state of cleanliness is imperative. The millions of pores of the body are avenues through which life functions and must be kept clean. The external must be kept as clean as the internal. Internal purity must find external expression. 5. There must also be mental purity. In order to meditate on any subject of an uplifting nature, it is essential to be bereft of malice, hatred, unkindliness, and the like. By such mental action, the inner self is purified, and thought can function clearly to achieve the desired end. 6. Contentment is a state of mind that permits no other thought to interfere with the one particular idea on which the devotee is meditating. It is essential that no wandering thoughts enter into the mind, lest they disturb the equilibrium of the individual. Third step, asana. 7. Posture, poise. One must take a comfortable position so that the physical may not call attention to itself. The thought must be allowed to travel unhampered on its errand. The state of poise expresses will and reason, in which the superior mind is manifested in sincerity and truthfulness. Fourth step, pranayama. 8. Controlling the vital forces of the body. This means that we must manipulate the vital force in such a manner that it may not take the entire self-surrender for itself alone, at the expense of all other needs of the soul. Fifth step, pratyahara. 9. Making the mind introspective, self-examination, effects known from past experience, application of knowledge gained to discern objects and their consequences, whether immediate or remote. Sixth step, Prana, concentration. 10. Arranging in order thoughts and their objects for the purpose of selecting from them that which is essential for our work. Seventh step, dhyana, meditation. 11. The object selected by concentration is now to be meditated upon for the purpose of embellishing the object, so that the thought may shine upon it and through it. 12. When in the state of meditation, you can take a subject and think hard upon it until you are able to learn its origin, as well as its relation to all other things. You will find in this state that one thought will suggest another until you finally discover the entire series. All of your problems can be worked out in this manner. Eighth step, nirvana. 13. A state to which only a great devotee can attain by strenuous discipline, and by which planes beyond our realm are reached. In this state, everything is perfect. It is a unity of all that exists. In this serene silence, all differences have been subdued, all is perfect. 14. In the first step, you will find that you are getting wisdom. 15. With the second step, the mind will cease to be dissatisfied. 16. With the third step, you will feel sure that you have found the truth. 17. With the fourth step, you will know that the morning is breaking, and taking courage, you will persevere until the goal is reached. 18. With the fifth step, you will find that all pains will vanish. It will be impossible for anything physical, mental, or spiritual to give you pain. 19. With the sixth step will come freedom. With the attainment of freedom, you will require nothing to make you happy, for you are happiness itself. 20. With the seventh step, you will find that this knowledge does not depend on anything else, that it is complete within itself. 21. The eighth step will be the last state, and you will become peaceful and calm, never again to feel pain, never again to be deluded, never again to feel miserable. 22. The great hindrance to mastery is doubt. We are doubtful, for even the best of us will doubt sometimes. But with practice, within a few days a glimpse will come, sufficient to give us encouragement and hope. 23. For instance, after the first few months of training, you will begin to find that you can read another's thoughts. They will come to you in picture form. Perhaps when you concentrate your mind, or try to do so, you will hear something happening at a long distance. These glimpses will come, just a little at first, but enough to give you faith and strength and hope. 24. To produce these results, you must know the law and apply it. Miracles are the acts of great souls who have studied natural laws and at the opportune time performed some act which was beyond the knowledge of the masses, and for that reason is termed a miracle. 25. You are daily experiencing the achievements of great souls in the realm of different departments of human progress. They have not added in any way to the elements which compose this cosmos, but they have utilized the elementary forms in the proper combinations, and have thus secured the desired results. 26. When Socrates was condemned to drink the hemlock, and the people planned his escape, he refused assistance, stating that if he evaded the law, he would have to pay the penalty. He was a philosopher. He had no university education, but his followers are numbered by the million. He has embedded in the mind of the human family glorious thoughts of splendid manhood. His teachings contribute towards making the supermen, and these supermen are operating pranayama. 27. Yoga philosophy is neither strange nor mysterious. 28. Mystery-mongering is weakening. Because a philosophy is not understood, it is not necessarily mysterious. The unusual power of the so-called adepts and yogis is simply the result of an understanding of certain natural laws, which all may possess. 29. The yoga philosophy was discovered more than 4,000 years ago, and has been perfectly delineated, formulated, and given clearly and concisely to the world by the ancient masters. 30. A yogi never lies or causes another to tell a lie, or approves of another doing so. 31. The yogi knows that the easiest way to be happy is to make others happy. 32. When this power of truth is established in thought, word, and deed, he may say to a man, "Be blessed," and that man will be blessed. If a man is diseased, and he says to him, "Be thou made whole," it will be done. 33. By developing mental power, you can penetrate anything. Take, for instance, drilling a well. If you have a diamond drill, it will go through rocks or anything else that may come in its path. So with the mental power, you can penetrate to the borderland of existence and conceive of experiences which may seem miraculous to the uninitiated. 34. Physical ability may have its limitations, but mental ability knows no bounds. It will penetrate to the remotest spot in the world. It will contact the infinite. It will make the impossible possible. 35. Thought can bring us to the point where we can meet the great and glorious first cause, and thus realize our unity with the source. 36. There is something beyond our mind called the cosmic mind, which is greater than our mind. To illustrate, the cosmic mind is the general powerhouse, and we are dynamos through which the general powerhouse distributes its energy. 37. In order that you may draw things to yourself by the law of attraction, it is necessary to recognize this cosmic mind, which is within as well as without, and to attune the self to it. 38. In the study of yoga philosophy, you will find that you can accomplish this. If you are tied with a chain, whether that chain be made of gold or something less, it is a chain just the same. 39. He that holds another down is just as much in bondage as the one held. 40. Yoga philosophy is a system of operating the cosmic law. We use the word system because it is a method by which we can apply our energy to get better results with less time and labor. 41. The operation of this system is called pranayama. 42. Prana is life in action, vigorous action, motion, creative energy. 43. Pranayama is the control of this active force, or potential energy. 44. The Greek culture gave license to a full life on earth with the enjoyment of all its allurements to the limit. 45. To the Greeks, temperance meant the harmonious adjustment of conflicting tendencies, the proper mixture of symmetry, proportion, balance, harmony. These are expressed in her architecture, not only in itself, but in the setting of the scenery, the waters, the sky. 46. With all this, no attempt was made to express new spiritual struggle or higher aspiration, but to form magnificent, enticing order and rhythm. The age of Pericles and the work of Phidias typify the Greek conception of life. 47. We are indebted to the Greeks for the ideal of a sound mind in a sound body, but the yogi advocates the same idea, plus a spiritual nobility. The gods and goddesses of Greece were expressed in symmetry of form and beauty, but this sensuality did not endure the ravages of time. 48. The Greeks as a people did not rise to a spiritual conception of life, as do the Hindus. The mind of the Hindus penetrates into the superconscious state in which they enjoy the blissful state of pure serenity. 49. The expression of the noble saints and sages of ancient India has filled the Indian world with the thoughts of the Upanishads, the Vedic hymns, and the epics of Ramayana and Mahabharata, which still thrill her people with their poetic beauty, mingled with the keenest philosophy. 50. We of the Western world have now the opportunity to combine the beauty and symmetry of the Greek ideal with the spiritual wisdom of the Hindu philosophy. Part 6. Study questions with answers. 1. What is Raja Yoga? Raja Yoga, meaning royal yoga, is the science of conquering the internal nature or realizing the divinity within. He who conquers himself can conquer all else. 2. What are the 8 necessary steps? The 8 necessary steps to the mastery of yoga are: first step, yama or truthfulness, kindliness, honesty, temperance. Second step, niyama or physical and mental cleanliness, contentment. Third step, asana or posture and poise. Fourth step, pranayama or control of vital forces. Fifth step, pratyahara or introspective self-examination. Sixth step, Prana or concentration. Seventh step, dhyana or meditation. 3. What is the result of taking the first step? The result of taking the first step, yama, will be an improvement in the quality of all that is good for the nobler ends of life. In the first step, you will find that you are getting wisdom. 4. The second step. The result of taking the second step, niyama, will be a realization of the necessity of maintaining internal and external cleanliness and personal purity of mind and body, which involves cleansing the mind also of negative thoughts, so that pure thought may function clearly to achieve its ideals. With the second step, the mind will cease to be dissatisfied. 5. The third step. The result of taking the third step, asana, will be the state of poise, which allows thought to function unhampered by physical considerations. Will and reason will express themselves in freedom, and in superior minds will manifest as sincerity and truthfulness. With the third step, you will feel sure that you have found the truth. 6. The fourth step. The result of taking the fourth step, pranayama, will be the ability to control the vital forces of the body and to use them for the needs of the soul. With the fourth step, you will know that the morning is breaking, and taking courage, you will persevere until the goal is reached. 7. The fifth step. The result of taking the fifth step, pratyahara, will be the ability to analyze past experiences and select from the knowledge gained that which is best fitted for the discernment of new subjects and their consequences, whether immediate or remote. With the fifth step, you will find that all pains will vanish. It will be impossible for anything physical, mental, or spiritual to give you pain. 8. What will come with the sixth step? With the sixth step, Prana, will come the ability to marshal thought and its objects for the purpose of selecting the mental material which is essential for our work. With the sixth step will come freedom. With the attainment of freedom, you will require nothing to make you happy, for you are happiness itself. 9. What will come with the seventh step? With the seventh step, dhyana, will come the power to meditate upon the object which was selected by the concentration of Prana, but in such a way as to embellish the objects in imagination, so that the thought shines into and through it. You will see it in relation to all other things. One thought will suggest another until all that can be thought about the object will be exhausted. All problems can be worked out in this manner. With the seventh step, you will find that the knowledge you reach does not then depend on anything else, that it is complete within itself. 10. What will come with the eighth step? With the eighth step, nirvana, will come perfection of all thought about everything. This is the perfection and unity of all that exists. All differences are subdued. All is perfect. The eighth step will be the last state, and you will become peaceful and calm. Never again to feel pain, never again to be deluded, never again to feel miserable. Part 7. Sublimation of reproductive energy. This part gives you the rules for rhythmic breathing to increase the supply of vital energy. It also gives you an exercise for transmutation of the reproductive energy, which has never heretofore been revealed. 1. In order to prolong life, we must have powerful lungs. In ordinary breathing, we use only a portion of the lungs, and unless we practice correct deep breathing a number of times each day, those parts of the lungs which are less used will in time get atrophied and disease will be the result. 2. Make it a point to practice deep breathing every day in the open for about 10 minutes. 3. In deep breathing, you should fill in the lower, middle, and upper parts of the lungs, that is, the whole of the lungs, to their full capacity by breathing slowly in one continuous flow. 4. Each breath involves 3 actions: inhaling, retaining, and exhaling. In certain kinds of breathing, an interval is observed between each 2 breaths, and during such intervals, no breathing takes place and the lungs are quite empty. 5. In rhythmic breathing, it is essential to observe time in performing these actions. Some of the yogis are in the habit of timing these processes by the beating of the heart or the pulse, so as to be in keeping with the rhythm of the body of each person. 6. While practicing deep breathing, retain the breath by closing both nostrils with your fingers. It is not advisable to cork up breath in the throat by the contraction of the surrounding muscles, as this is injurious. 7. To stimulate the brain, retain the breath by closing the nostrils and allow it to circulate in the nasal passage and in the upper part of the windpipe. 8. In practicing, you must always observe the following rules. They are very important. 9. By keeping these rules, you can prolong life and retain youth and health, free from decay. Some of these have never heretofore been revealed. 10. Inhaling and exhaling should be done very slowly. As you continue practicing, you should try to lengthen the time you take in making each inhalation and exhalation by inhaling and exhaling air very slowly in a long, drawn-out, thin stream. 11. Inhaling very slowly helps the Pingala and Ida nerves to absorb more etheric energy. This also helps to filter and warm the air as it passes through the winding nasal passage. Inhaling quickly defeats all these 3 requirements in breathing. 12. Exhaling quickly helps to carry away much building material from the blood in the lungs. This dissipates energy and weakens the body. Inhaling and exhaling slowly will give you full control over all the breathing muscles. 13. Practice by degrees to prolong the time of retention and the interval between each 2 breaths. This oxygenizes the blood perfectly, gives endurance to the lungs, and quickens the circulation of blood. 14. Inhale fully till the abdominal regions swell up, and exhale fully till the abdominal regions shrink. This massages all the internal organs of that region, inciting them to normal action. 15. At every inhalation, think that you absorb and store up a supply of prana and oxygen from the air. 16. Observe rhythm and try to balance the positive and negative etheric currents, either by inhaling alternately 1 breath at a time from each nostril, or by inhaling a number of breaths at a time from each nostril alternately. Special exercises. 17. Stand or sit with spine erect, open the mouth, and place the tip of the tongue at the root of the upper row of teeth. Now close both your nostrils with the fingers and inhale slowly through the mouth, a long breath. Slowly exhale all the breath from the lungs through the mouth, contracting the abdomen. Practice this about 10 times. The practice of this exercise will purify the blood. 18. Stand or sit with spine erect. Point your lips just as you do when you whistle, leaving a small hole. Now close your nostrils with the fingers and inhale slowly a deep breath through the pointed mouth. Close the mouth and exhale through the nostrils. Practice this about 10 times. This will cure diseases due to impure blood. 19. Practice whistling each day for about 5 minutes. This will strengthen the lungs and purify the blood as well. 20. If you do not find an opportunity to indulge in a hearty laugh each day, you can practice artificial laughing for 2 or 3 minutes each day. Practice this by trying to reproduce the same actions of the mouth, the lungs, and the diaphragm as when you naturally laugh. 21. Alternate rhythmic breathing. 22. The yogi bases his rhythmic time upon a unit corresponding with the beat of his heart. The heartbeat varies in different persons, but the heartbeat unit of each person is the proper rhythmic standard for that particular individual in his rhythmic breathing. Ascertain your normal heartbeat by placing your finger over your pulse and then count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, etc., until the rhythm becomes firmly fixed in your mind. A little practice will fix the rhythm so that you will be able easily to reproduce it. Some yogis practice rhythmic breathing by measuring the time of inhalation, retention, exhalation, and interval between breaths in other ways. 23. Below are given 3 exercises, each of which differs from the others. You may practice which you prefer. Inhale counting 8 heartbeats. Retain counting 32 heartbeats. Exhale counting 16 heartbeats. No interval between breaths. As you progress, you may increase the time of inhaling, retaining, and exhaling in the proportion of 4 to always. Inhale counting 8 heartbeats. Retain counting 16 heartbeats. Exhale counting 8 heartbeats. No interval between breaths. After some practice, the time of inhalation and exhalation may be doubled, trebled, or quadrupled. See in this exercise, increase the time of retention gradually from 16 to 24, 32, 40, 48, 56, or any multiple of 8, which is the most important thing, even if the time of inhaling and exhaling remains 8 heartbeats. 24. There are yogis who, after years of practice of this exercise, are able to retain the breath for 1 or even 2 hours. This seems miraculous to the ordinary man. 25. Alternate breathing. Close the left nostril and inhale a breath slowly through the right nostril. Exhale without retaining through the same right nostril. Now inhale through the left and exhale through same. Practice a number of times, alternating the nostril every time. 26. Breathing exercise for thought control. Close the left nostril and inhale a breath through the right. Retaining the breath as long as you can, try to concentrate on the act of retaining the breath without allowing any thoughts to enter your mind. Exhale through the right and inhale through the left and do likewise. The attempt to control thought every time when the air is in the lungs will help anyone to acquire the habit of thought control easily. 27. Other methods of controlling thought are by concentrating the mind on some sound such as the ticking of a clock, or on deep silence in which you hear a still small voice, or by concentrating the gaze either on some object or on empty void. By combining one or more of these methods of concentration with breathing, you can acquire the art of thought control in a very short time. 28. Here follows a pranayama exercise for the transmutation of the productive energy. In order to effect a transmission of the reproductive energy, either to the solar plexus, or to the region of the heart and lungs, or to the brain, when the sexual instinct is uppermost, you should first close the right nostril flow, if you are a male, or the left nostril flow, if you are a female. You may keep the required nostril closed with one of the fingers till you go through the exercise. Stand erect or sit erect with feet placed squarely on the floor and inhale a deep breath through the open nostril. Retaining the breath, expand and contract the abdominal region several times, and then exhale. Inhale again through the same nostril and do as before. 29. When you inhale 3 or 4 breaths as directed, the emotions will be subjugated. But now you must transmit the energy to the required region. Do this by inhaling another breath and retaining it without expanding or contracting the abdomen. Contract or draw in the anus, mentally ordering the energy to be transmitted to the required region. Exhale and inhale another breath and contract the anus as before. If you have mastered the act of drawing in the anus, you will actually feel the etheric energy which animates the sex organs being drawn up. 30. Remember, in the transmutation of the reproductive energy, the most essential thing is the contraction of the anus. There should be no contraction or shrinking of the abdominal regions, but an internal action of the intestines and the muscles of the anus only. Part 7. Study questions with answers. 1. Why should we practice deep breathing? We should practice deep breathing a number of times each day because unless we do, those parts of the lungs which are less used will in time get atrophied, and disease will be the result. In order to prolong life, we must have powerful lungs. In ordinary breathing, we use only a portion of the lungs. In deep breathing, we fill the whole of the lungs to their full capacity by breathing slowly in one continuous flow, and thus we strengthen the lungs and prolong life. 2. How do the yogi practice rhythmic breathing? The yogi observe time in rhythmic breathing. Each breath involves 3 actions: inhaling, retaining, and exhaling. Some of the yogi are in the habit of timing these processes by the beating of the heart or the pulse, so that the rhythm of the breathing may be in keeping with the rhythm of the body. 3. What is the first important rule to be remembered in breathing exercises? The first important rule to remember in breathing exercises is to inhale very slowly in a long drawn-out thin stream. 4. Why is this necessary? Because slow inhalation helps the Pingala and the Ida nerves to absorb more etheric energy. It also helps to filter and warm the air as it passes through the winding nasal passage. 5. What is the next important rule? The next important rule to be remembered in breathing exercises is to exhale very slowly in a long drawn-out thin stream. Slow exhalation keeps within the blood in the lungs much building material which quick exhalation carries away. Hence, exhaling slowly conserves energy and strengthens the body. 6. What is the third rule? The third important rule is to prolong gradually the time during which the breath is retained and the interval between each 2 breaths. 7. Why should this be done? Because this oxygenates the blood perfectly, gives endurance to the lungs, and quickens the circulation of the blood. 8. What is the next important rule? The next important rule is to inhale fully until the abdominal regions swell up, and to exhale fully until the abdominal regions shrink. 9. What is accomplished by this? This should be done because it massages all the internal organs of that region, inciting them to normal action. At every inhalation, think that you absorb and store up a supply of prana and oxygen from the air. 10. What are the next 2 rules? The next 2 rules are to observe rhythm and try to balance the positive and negative etheric currents, either by inhaling alternately 1 breath at a time from each nostril or by inhaling a number of breaths at a time from each nostril, alternately. Remember that correct breathing prolongs life and retains youthfulness and health free from decay. Part 8. Utilization of infinite power. This part tells you of the 3 phases of life or states of being. It tells you of the infinite, omnipresent, manifesting power of the universe. It tells you of a method of controlling this force. It tells you of an attractive force which draws power from the universal storehouse of power. It tells you of the pessimistic, undeveloped, crude, brutish force which looks for gratification of the senses and nothing more. It tells you of a mighty power which lies dormant at the base of the spine, and how by the awakening of it you may develop miraculous power. It tells you how to purify your body and make it a center of radiant magnetism. 1. In yoga philosophy, there are 3 phases or states of being: akasa, prana, pranayama. 2. Akasa, the void. In akasa is that out of which all was created, the omnipresent, infinite material of the universe. 3. Prana, the infinite, omnipresent manifesting power of the universe. 4. Pranayama is the method of controlling akasa and prana. 5. It is the method of application of these forces. 6. Thus, as akasa is the infinite substance of which all has been created. 7. Prana is the manifestation of the substance or the infinite substance in motion, and pranayama the method of controlling this infinite power. 8. Prana is the life force. 9. Yama is the control of the force. 10. Chuta is the mind stuff. The various phases of mind from the inactive to the highly active. The Chuta is the magnetic force which draws power from the universal mind, which is the storehouse. 11. Vritti is the force that obstructs or distracts the attention. The senses are the external instruments conveying the impressions to the brain center. The vritti are the ripples which obstruct the view and make it difficult to see the true self. 12. Dhrara is concentration. To concentrate, wait and watch how the mind moves. Give it all the time it wants to wander, and by degrees this wandering will be reduced. Hold or focus your mind on a certain point, and the result will be concentration. 13. Take, for example, a book. We see a book. We meditate on the book which we place on the table, but do not see the table, see nothing but the book, its shape, color, etc. While we are meditating, many thoughts will come to mind, which must be eradicated by thinking and seeing the book only. The next step is to consider the book. Try to consider the contents of the book only, the ideas contained therein. When we can do this, we absorb the ideas in the book, and they become part of ourselves and cannot be taken away from us. 14. Purusa is the eye discriminating between things. It has more magnetic effect than anything else. It is the real soul that perceives the objective. The senses are like untrained horses, which run wild if let go without a guide. The Purusa is the guide. The Purusa directs the activities of life toward happiness, which is the ultimate goal of life. 15. Indriyas are the five senses, the avenues by the aid of which we discern things. Things of themselves have no value, but become powerful when aided by mind power or chuta. 16. Manas is the mind. The function of manas is to collect and convey impressions to the buddhi, which is the discriminative faculty. 17. Takas is darkness, the pessimistic, undeveloped, crude, brutish nature that draws down. This type is selfish, ignorant, inactive, looking for gratification of the senses and nothing more. The Takas type look for immediate results. They contribute nothing to the general good. This state represents the dark ages of human history, in which men lived without applying cooperative unity in the development of self or of the race in which they were born. 18. Rajas represents the type who have been fortunate and have acquired knowledge, wealth, opulence, and are living comfortably. They use show and pomp and often vanity, and are sometimes philanthropic. But when giving, they give with the idea of gaining publicity and public favor. They like to have their names mentioned. They do good with the expectation of receiving something in return. They are active, powerful, and enjoy dignity. 19. Sattva is the state of serenity, calmness. To be calm is the greatest manifestation of power. It is like a body of water after a storm. Such calmness reigns that we can see the bottom of the lake. The sattvas do not have to advertise they are known. Their words will permeate throughout the world. The state of sattva is the result of doing good for its own sake, without expecting remuneration. 20. This is a noble way of doing kind works. The acts of a father and mother are sattva acts. The man who lives the truth and tells the truth cannot be without food, clothing, or shelter. It could not be. The sattva state is a holy state. Persons in this state enjoy. 21. The sattvas are the developed souls who are endeavoring to show by exemplary lives that serenity and calmness of mind can be obtained by overcoming the two previous states. In this state, the seeker and the sought become one. 22. These several states depict the life of all individuals, races, and nations. It is possible to see the traits of one or the other expressed in each of us at some time. 23. One method of pranayama is to pay special attention to the Sushumna nerve, for by so doing, miraculous powers are acquired. 24. In order to rouse up the mighty power which lies dormant at the base of the spine, and send it up the Sushumna canal, Practice concentration and breathing exercises. 25. In the practice of these exercises, the yogi assume different postures. That is, they sit in certain ways which help them to conserve prana. And they also practice alternate or rhythmic breathing, which makes them radiant centers of electromagnetism. 26. The whole cycle of breath flow during each day of 24 hours is divided into 12 equal parts of 2 hours each. These 12 natural divisions or periods correspond to the 12 signs of the zodiac. During each period of 2 hours, the right nostril flows for 1 hour and the left nostril for 1 hour. So each of the 12 periods consists of a positive flow and a negative flow. 27. Now 6 of these periods occur during the day, while the remaining 6 occur during the night. The 6 periods of breath flow during the day are ruled by the sun, while the 6 periods during the night are ruled by the moon. 28. Every positive flow or flow through the right nostril is governed by the sun, and every negative flow or flow through the left nostril is governed by the moon. The breath flow during each lunar month is similarly divided into a positive period governed by the sun and a negative period governed by the moon. 29. The dark fortnight, or the fortnight beginning with full moon and ending in new moon, is the positive period, while the lighted fortnight, or the fortnight beginning with the new moon and ending in full moon, is the negative period. 30. In persons in normal health, breath flow will occur about 21,600 times in each day of 24 hours. That is, on an average of about 15 breaths in each minute. 1 inhalation and 1 exhalation make 1 breath. 31. The stronger and healthier a person is, the less will be the number of breaths taken by him during each minute. The weaker a person is, the more will be the number of breaths taken by him. 32. When we exhale, the breath is thrown out from the nostril or nostrils a certain distance. The longer the distance, the weaker the person is. The breath scientists know even the length of each exhalation in a person of normal health. While resting, sleeping, walking, singing, working, etc., if a person's breath flows out to a distance of more than 8 inches or so while at rest, then you may know that he is fast declining in health and strength. 33. By practice of alternate rhythmic breathing exercises, the yogi lessen not only the number of breaths that they inhale each day, but also the length of their breath flow. In these exercises, they practice to prolong each inhalation and exhalation to the utmost capacity, and by inhaling and exhaling very, very slowly in one continuous flow. After years of careful, systematic, and ungrudging practice, they gain perfect control over the breathing mechanism. Their breath flow then does not extend out to more than 1 or 2 inches. 34. The constant practice of the breathing exercises purifies their bodies and makes them radiant centers of magnetism. When they reach the final stage, the breath flow stops altogether. The breath enters and comes out so slowly that it cannot be felt at all. They can then live for months without apparently breathing. When they have reached this stage, they can even live in a hermetically sealed coffin for hours. 35. This is one of the methods of prolonging life indefinitely among the yogi, for when this stage is reached, there will be no decay of the body. For the greater the decay of the body, the greater will be the demand for air, and hence greater will be the influx of air into the lungs. But when the decay of the body is the least, there will be but little demand for air. 36. Each hour of breath flow from either of the 2 nostrils is divided into 5 periods, each of which is ruled by one of the 5 elements in rotation. 37. The 5 elements are ether, air, fire, water, and earth. 38. The universe is composed of the 5 elements, and so is the human body. Therefore, these 5 elements exert a subtle influence over the physical body. 39. During the 60 minutes, when each nostril is in flow, the air element rules the body for 8 minutes, the fire element for 12 minutes, the water element for 16 minutes, the earth element for 20 minutes, and lastly, the ether element for 4 minutes. 40. The element that rules the body at a given time rules the breath flow as well. 41. Each fortnight or half of a lunar month is divided into 5 periods of 3 days each. In accordance with the natural breath flow, each of these 5 periods is ruled by one of the elements or by one of the 5 planets: Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn. 42. The numbers 3, 5, 7, and 12 are very noticeable in the arrangement of the various plans of this universe of ours. The wonder of it all is that law, order, number, weight, rhythm, and proportion run through the entire compass of creation, the handiwork of the omniscient infinite spirit. 43. The course of 12 lessons now in your hands gives definite and practical information concerning the hidden, elusive, and mysterious powers by which many are enabled to secure and hold love, fame, position, and sometimes wealth. 44. The next part, number 9, will give you concise and definite instructions for changing the breath flow from one nostril to the other, by which you will be enabled to bring about important mental and physical changes. For, as you have already found, negative conditions are nearly always the result of incorrect methods of breathing. Part 8. Study questions with answers. 1. What are the 3 states of being in yoga philosophy? In yoga philosophy, the 3 states of being are 1. Akasa, 2. Prana, and 3. Pranayama. 2. What is as akasa? Akasa is the void, the omnipresent infinite material of the universe, out of which all was created. 3. What is prana? Prana is the infinite, omnipresent manifesting power of the universe. It is akasa in motion. It is the life force. 4. What is pranayama? Pranayama is the method of controlling and applying the akasa and prana forces. Prana means the life force, and yama means the control of force. 5. What is vritti? Vritti is the force that obstructs or distracts the attention. It obstructs the mental vision and makes it difficult for one to see the true self. 6. What is drara? Drara is the concentration that holds or focuses the wandering mind on any desired object of thought. 7. What is manas? Manas is the mind, and its function is to collect and carry impressions to the discriminating faculty. 8. What is sattva? Sattva is the state of serenity or calmness. It is the supreme manifestation of power. It results from doing good for its own sake, without expectation of remuneration. This is a holy state, the reward of which is happiness. 9. How do the yogi make themselves radiant centers of electromagnetism? The yogi make themselves radiant centers of electromagnetism by sitting in the ways best fitted to conserve prana, and by practicing alternate or rhythmic breathing. This constant practice purifies their bodies and makes them radiant centers of magnetism. Some of the yogi can live for months without apparently breathing and can prolong their lives indefinitely. 10. Of what elements is the universe composed? The elements that compose the universe are 5, viz. Ether, air, fire, water, and earth. The same elements compose the human body, fire being warmth and earth being the material substance. These 5 elements, therefore, exert a subtle influence over the physical body. Part 9. The breath of life. This part tells you of the mysterious breath of life, and of the 4 methods of respiration and the merits of each. It tells you of power, poise, and the essence of the higher self. It tells you how to clarify your thought, so that you will be enabled to concentrate indefinitely. It further tells you how to change the breath flow from one nostril to the other. 1. Prana is the vital force of the universe. 2. Pranayama is the method of controlling this force. 3. The yogis secure this control by a scientific process of breathing. 4. Breath is life. Some by inherent nature breathe properly, but others must discover the way. Some by inherent nature become great artists, while others have to acquire this by work. 5. Breath is like the flywheel of a machine. In a large engine, the flywheel is the first thing to move, and that motion is conveyed to the finer and finer machinery, until the most delicate and finest mechanism in the machine is in motion. 6. The breath is that flywheel. It supplies and regulates this motive power for the entire body. 7. We never breathe from both nostrils at the same time. According to the yoga method, we should use the following formula. 12 seconds inhalation, puraka. 4 seconds restrain or hold, kumbhaka. 8 seconds exhale, richaka. 8. When you have practiced yogi breathing for a few months, you will wonder where you have been all these years. You will say, I never knew I could achieve such results. 9. Respiration may be classified into 4 types, viz. High breathing, mid breathing, low breathing, and yoga breathing. High breathing is what we know as clavicular or collarbone breathing. In this breathing, only the upper part of the chest and lungs, which is the smallest part, is used, and consequently, a minimum amount of air enters the lungs. In addition to this, the diaphragm, a partition separating the thoracic from the abdominal cavity, being raised, it compresses the lowermost portion of the lungs, and thus no expansion of the lungs occurs downwards. In this breathing, there is a maximum amount of effort made to obtain a minimum amount of benefit. 10. Mid-breathing, to which we are normally accustomed, is what we call intercostal or thoracic breathing. It is less objectionable than high breathing, but inferior to low breathing. 11. Low breathing, or diaphragmatic breathing, is far better than the 2 previously mentioned forms of breathing. Western writers have now come to learn the importance of this breathing, and have largely extolled its merits in their health magazines. In this breathing, the movement of the diaphragm plays a very important part. The diaphragm, when at rest, presents a concave surface to the abdominal cavity and is protruded in the chest like a cone. When it is brought into use, the conical appearance disappears, and the diaphragm presses on the abdominal contents and forces the abdomen out. This breathing fills the lower and middle parts only. 12. Yoga breathing includes all the 3 modes. The process for this breathing is as follows. The upper part of the lungs is first filled with air. Then, by expanding the ribs, an additional volume of air is further inhaled to fill up the middle portion of lungs. Thus, in yoga breathing, the whole of the lungs from apex to base is filled with air at each inspiration so as to absorb the maximum amount of prana. 13. After one has thus learned to expand the lungs to their fullest capacity, the next step is to bring a rhythm into the respiration. 14. This rhythm bears a fixed relation to inhalation and retention of breath, and again to retention of breath and exhalation. And when complete mastery over this rhythm and full expansion of the lungs is obtained, prana or energy may be willed into any particular part of the body. 15. The training of the will by pranayama gives exercise to the mind, so that in course of time, it acquires a capacity to respond to the superconscious, which is the object of pranayama in the science and philosophy of yoga. 16. By this process of breathing, the body automatically adjusts itself to your method of thought. When you get accustomed to this process of breathing, you will find your thoughts clarified, and with this clarification of your thought, you will be able to concentrate definitely. 17. Should you desire to bring to your memory past ideas, hold the head upward after thinking for a minute or so, and the ideas will come to you. 18. The method by which the flow can be changed from one nostril to the other is very important, for in cases of disease or trouble, the change of flow will have quick and favorable results. 19. In the majority of people, owing to cold or catarrh, the nasal passage gets occasionally obstructed with mucus or catarrhal matter. This affects the breath flow, and thereby the health of the person becomes impaired. By the practice of the following method, one can keep the nasal passage unobstructed and be free from colds, catarrh, headaches, etc. 20. Nasal douching. Take a cup full of pure, cool water near your nostrils and immerse the nose, closing one of the nostrils with one of your fingers. Then inhale the water till a quantity of it comes down the nasal passage into the mouth, from whence it can be thrown out. You may feel a little pain and irritation at first, but after some practice, this will disappear. 21. Now repeat the same process with the other nostril. After about a week's practice, each nostril may be thus washed 3 or 4 times. This you can practice every morning when you have your morning ablutions. Then you can either take the water in the cup of your right hand and inhale it, or immerse your face in the basin of water. Practice this every day. 22. Various methods for changing the flow. 1. Get a small piece of cloth from a clean old soft cotton rag. Make this into a ball large enough to be inserted into your nostril. With this, close the flowing nostril, and the breath will begin to flow from the other. You may even use a ball of clean cotton for this purpose. 2. Keep the flowing nostril closed for some time with one of your fingers, and the breath flow will change to the other. 3. Inhale through the flowing nostril, and then close that nostril and exhale through the other. Repeat this process for some minutes, and then reverse it, and the flow will change to the other. 4. When you are lying down in bed, you change the flow by lying on the flowing side, so that the non-flowing side may be up. While lying thus, exert considerable pressure near the armpit of the side on which you lie. The flow will then change. 23. The way the breath flows in a person determines his physical condition, and the converse of this is also true. That is, certain conditions brought about by external agencies, such as food, drink, medicines, environment, etc., react upon the breathing mechanism and change the breath flow. 24. Exposing oneself to sudden changes of temperature also changes the breath flow, especially in those of lower vitality. 25. For immediate change of flow, you will find that the first method is by far the easiest, if the nasal passage is not obstructed with any catarrhal matter. But for permanent results, make use of the last method. 26. If you suffer from cold, then it is not advisable to use cold water for nasal douching. Before changing the flow by method 1, it will be good to clear the obstructed nostril by introducing the little finger carefully as far as it goes. Then blow the nose vigorously once or twice. 27. Another method is to inhale a deep breath and close both nostrils tightly. Then concentrate the air inhaled in the upper part of the lungs, the windpipe, and in the nasal passage, by drawing in the diaphragm and by a contraction of the throat. Hold the breath as long as you can and then release it. Practice this 4 or 5 times. This helps to open up the obstructed nostril, especially when you suffer from cold. 28. Sometimes it happens that a fleshy growth or malformation of the nasal passage prevents the normal flow of breath. In such a case, consult a good surgeon. 29. All heating foods have a tendency to increase the temperature of the body. This sometimes causes an increased flow of the right nostril. Liquor like brandy, whiskey, wine has a tendency to cause the right nostril to flow, and hence their effect upon digestion. 30. Cooling foods, on the other hand, are comparatively indigestible, and they have a tendency to cause the left nostril to flow. 31. The heating foods include such things as beef, cocoa, coffee, honey, cod liver oil, every kind of liquor, condensed milk, salt or tinned fish, and meat, etc. These have the tendency to increase the internal heat of the body. Part 9. Study questions with answers. 1. What is the vital force of the universe? Prana is the name the yogi give to the vital force of the universe. 2. What is the method of controlling this force? The method of controlling prana is called pranayama. 3. How do the yogis secure this control? The yogi exercise pranayama by a scientific process of breathing, the breath being life. Some breathe rightly by innate instinct. Some become great artists in breathing after much practice. 4. What is the flywheel of the human machine? The breath may be termed the flywheel of the human machine because it supplies and regulates the motive power for the human body. 5. What are the 4 methods of breathing? The 4 types into which respiration may be classified are high breathing, which uses only the upper part of the chest and allows only a minimum amount of air to enter the tops of the lungs, thus giving a minimum amount of benefit for a maximum amount of effort. Mid-breathing, to which most people are accustomed, is intercostal or thoracic. This method is less objectionable than high breathing, but inferior to low breathing. 3. Low breathing, which is far better than I or E. The diaphragm is brought more into play, but only the lower and the middle parts of the lungs are filled. Yoga breathing, which includes modes I, E, and 3. The upper parts of the lungs are first filled with air. Then, by expanding the ribs, an additional volume of air is further inhaled to fill up the middle and lower portions of the lungs. 6. What does the yoga method include? In yoga breathing, the whole of the lungs from apex to base of each is filled with air at each inspiration, which allows the maximum amount of prana to be absorbed. 7. What is the next step in the science of breath control? The next step in the science of breath control is to bring a rhythm into respiration. This rhythm bears a fixed relation to inhalation and retention of breath, and again to retention of breath and exhalation. 8. When complete mastery over this rhythm has been obtained, what can be accomplished? When complete mastery over the rhythm of breathing has been obtained and full expansion of the lungs is practiced, prana or energy may be willed into any particular part of the body. 9. What does the way the breath flows determine? The way the breath flows in a person determines the physical condition. 10. What is the result of training the will by pranayama? The training of the will by pranayama gives exercise to the mind, so that, in course of time, it acquires a capacity to respond to the superconscious, which is the object of pranayama in the science and philosophy of yoga. By this process of breathing, the body automatically adjusts itself to the method of thought. Also, thought is clarified, and ability to concentrate is achieved. Part 10. Reviving the Dead. This part tells of a wonderful secret, which was wrested from the Japanese by a jiu-jitsu champion. The secret is a method of resuscitation or restoring life to persons who are apparently dead from drowning or sudden concussions due to any stage of collapse or unconsciousness. It is called the Leo McLaglen system of resuscitation, after the first man to reduce the manipulation to definite and ordered detail. This knowledge was undoubtedly originally possessed by the Yogi and gradually filtered through to the Chinese and Japanese. It is therefore another of the amazing secrets of the Yogi. 1. Here is a secret method for reviving the dead. This was not obtained directly from the Yogi, but it has been recorded that such knowledge was possessed by the Yogi in the past, and it either filtered through into the hands of the Chinese and the Japanese, or they themselves discovered it independently and utilized it in their wonderful art of attack and self-defense. 2. Anyone who knows something about jiu-jitsu, the Japanese art of attack and self-defense, will find that there is much in common between their teachings and the teachings of the yogis. 3. In the land of the rising sun, a wonderful secret, a secret telling of a way to restore life, has been jealously guarded by a few men and handed down by them through the centuries. The few men who were allowed to learn the secret were selected from the leading jiu-jitsu exponents. 4. The originators of this art must have known the course of movement of every joint. They also knew that the beating of the heart and the vital functions of breathing in some way exercised an influence upon one another. And they appear to have known that the cerebrospinal nervous system had something to do with both. 5. The uttermost secrets of this art teach several death-dealing blows, and also ways of exerting certain nerve pressures that produce deep unconsciousness, and the necessity of bringing victims back to life when desired led to this wonderful way of resuscitation after such blows or pressures. This secret is disclosed only to a few, and that under a vow never to impart it. 6. The only white man who wrested this secret from the Japanese, and who is himself a jiu-jitsu champion, describes it in the following words, after experimenting with it upon apes in Africa. 7. I now state confidently that many a man suddenly killed whilst in normal health from shock or by drowning is not actually or irretrievably dead until some later time still to be determined, possibly not until the commencement of putrefaction. If a man apparently dead is speedily treated in the manner I am about to disclose, the brain, the heart, and the lungs can be stimulated to resume their interrupted functions. The heart beats, the man breathes, his consciousness returns. In a word, he lives. A miracle has been accomplished. The dead has been restored to life. 8. We are all taught that the nerve cells of the brain and the spinal cord control all the functions of the body, including the beating of the heart and the rhythmic movement of the chest in breathing. We also know that the special nerve cells controlling any organ not only send impulses or messages to the organ they command, lulling them to sleep as it were, or exciting them to intense action, but receive impulses from it. Thus, though the nerve cells are the commanding factors, still the nerve cells and their particular organs interact on one another and are mutually interdependent. 9. We have, for instance, known of cases where the heart has stopped beating, and the surgeon has opened the chest, grasped the heart with his hand, and massaged it rhythmically. 10. This rhythmic massage so affects the heart muscles and the nerve centers that they take up them functions again, and respiration recommences. 11. The stimulation of the sensory nerve centers, say by shouting, will often ward off an impending loss of consciousness. These facts, together with others, are made use of in the method of resuscitation I am discussing. 12. The method of resuscitation I have evolved from the various sources alluded to does effectively awaken and coordinate the vital processes and their nerve centers and incites them to normal action again. 13. It can be used in all stages of collapse and unconsciousness after electrocution, if the current has not been so strong as to burn up the blood cells. It will stop epileptic fits. 14. As a means of inciting respiration, it far transcends all Western methods and is therefore the best way of restoring the apparently drowned. 15. It might be useful in collapse under an anesthetic. 16. More than one doctor has thought that it should be used on many of the newly dead as a means of safeguarding their patients and protecting themselves against the horror that lurks at the back of the minds of so many people, the dread of being buried alive or burying others alive. 17. As I said before, I am the only white man who has wrested this secret from the East. The Japanese did not actually teach me. They were too jealous of my success in jiu-jitsu to teach me more, and least of all such a secret as this. 18. I first got an inkling of it accidentally from a celebrated jiu-jitsu champion, whom I defeated in one of my world's championship combats. 19. My curiosity was aroused, and during my travels in the East, I picked up a point here and a point there, piecing them together and filling in the gaps in my knowledge, as well as perfecting and simplifying the system by experimenting on apes in Africa. 20. Later, I was sure of myself and I experimented on African natives. I am certainly the first man to reduce its manipulations to definite ordered detail. I therefore present it to the world under my own name and call it the Leo McLaglen System of Resuscitation. 21. Place your subject in a sitting posture with the back towards you, and support the back against one knee, placed a little in advance of the other. Press the thumbs deeply down in the hollows of the neck, just above the collarbones, where the thinness of the tissues allows pressure to be exercised directly on many important nerves. Lay the rest of the hands flat on the chest, ringers pointing downwards and a little outwards. Press the thumbs firmly down in the hollows and press the whole chest wall down. This will stimulate expiration and will press on the heart as well. This pressure of the thumbs is too painful to apply to a conscious subject. 22. Still continuing the thumb pressure in the root of the neck, slide the free fingers slightly outwards so as to catch the outer border of the large chest muscle and pull the whole chest up. This dilates the chest, stimulates inspiration, and creates an action in the big blood vessels and heart, causing it to dilate. Continue this at about the rate of 1 or 2 seconds to a movement, rapidly getting faster and more vigorous, until you have at least trebled the rate. 23. After 15 seconds or so of such up and down movement and thumb pressure, suddenly deliver a blow with a knee about the region of the 7th dorsal vertebra, at the same moment shouting "Hey!" loudly in the patient's ear. 24. If not successful at the first attempt, do all this over again, and do it a little harder and longer and faster. 25. In cases of drowning, you must first get the water out of the chest and stomach. The best way I have found of doing this is to turn your patient on his face, stand astride over him, interlock your hands under the pit of the stomach just under the rib cartilages, and jerk him up and down. The relaxed muscles will be forced violently against the lungs, squeezing out the water which runs by gravity out of the patient's mouth. Then apply my system of resuscitation as already described. The next part will tell the secret of all secrets, the method of making conscious connection with the universal storehouse of life, love and power, the method of becoming illumined and inspired, the method of making the impossible possible. Part 10. Study questions with answers. 1. Was the secret method of reviving the dead obtained direct from the yogi? The secret method of reviving the dead was not obtained from the yogi direct, but through the Japanese who probably got it from the yogi. 2. Is there anything in common between the teachings of the Japanese and that of the yogi? Those who know anything about jiu-jitsu and about yoga find that there is much in common between the teachings of the Japanese and the teachings of the yogi. 3. Where did the method of restoring life come from? The method of restoring life was obtained from leading Japanese exponents, of whom only a few are selected to be entrusted with a secret jealously guarded and handed down through the centuries. 4. Is this method practical? The method is practical, since the Japanese jiu-jitsu experts use it to revive opponents who are apparently killed by their death-dealing blows and pressures, and who would be dead in fact were they not resuscitated by special means. 5. When can it be used? It can be used to resuscitate people suddenly killed by shock while in normal health, provided that no fatal lesion has occurred nor the blood cells been burnt in the case of electrocution. 6. What else is it valuable for? It will stop epileptic fits. 7. Who experimented with and perfected this system? The method was experimented with and perfected by Leo McLaglen, who was first given an inkling of it by a jiu-jitsu champion, whom he defeated in one of his world's championship combats. 8. What is it called? It is called the Leo McLaglen system of resuscitation. 9. Is it valuable in cases of drowning? It is the best way of restoring to life the apparently drowned and far transcends the methods commonly used in Western countries for inciting respiration. 10. How is this done? To resuscitate the apparently drowned, first empty the patient of water by turning him on his face, and then stand astride over him, catch him under the part of the stomach just below the rib cartilages, and jerk him up and down so that the water runs by gravity out of his mouth. Then sit the patient on ground with back towards you, supported against one knee, advanced a little before the other. Press thumbs into hollows above collarbones. Place hands flat on patient's chest. Press chest well down. Catch hold of outer borders of big chest muscles with fingers and pull chest up. Continue to press down and pull muscles up while maintaining thumb pressure in root of neck. Move faster and more vigorously for 1 minute or more, and then deliver a blow suddenly with the knee about the region of the 7th dorsal vertebra, at the same time shouting "Hey!" loudly in the patient's ear. If not successful at the first attempt, do this all over again, but do it a little more violently and longer and faster. Part 11. the inner light. This part tells you of an inner light. When you are enabled to make use of this inner light, you not only know, but you know that you know. You no longer experiment. You no longer speculate or guess. You are in touch with the storehouse of power and can replenish at will. Thus you may turn the tide of failure into success. Thus you become a mastermind. 1. To go into silence implies that you are in that relaxed and passive condition of the mind and body in which the spirit energizes, illumines, and clarifies the conscious planes of the mind. 2. In order that this may take place, it is important that you have a special time for quietness or silence, in which you should allow no interruptions. 3. Every muscle of your body should be relaxed, and the mind be withdrawn from and cleared of all external things, and given wholly to a listening attitude, as though you were in the presence of a great teacher. 4. In the silence, the mind's ear should be turned to the Supreme Spirit and to no other source of instruction. If your attention wanders, bring it back. Spend from 10 to 20 or 30 minutes in this silence. It does not help you if you spend a longer period of time in the silence, unless there be some special emergency. 5. It is a good practice to have a set time or times every day for this silence. You may give other moments to silence, for instance, 3 to 5 minutes at your desk, in your bedroom, or while riding in tram, bus, or train. You will find it easier to observe silence and receive wisdom if you close your eyes. 6. Do not be discouraged if wonderful things do not occur in the silence. These wonderful things sometimes occur after the silence rather than in it. Do not do the thinking yourself, but let the Supreme One think through you and for you. 7. At first, when thoughts begin to come, they may not be very clear or very correct. Just listen. As the stream of thought flows on, it clarifies itself, and in a few moments you will be receiving wisdom to help you in your life and work. 8. If you seem to receive no thought or instruction at all, do not be discouraged. You will be receiving just as rich a lesson as if you were conscious of it, but being registered on the subconscious mind, ready to be brought forth into the conscious mind as soon as needed. 9. Note the similarity between this philosophy and that of Moses. 10. The ancient tabernacle erected by Moses typifies the 3 planes of mind in its 3 courts: the outer, the inner, and the inmost. The outer court was known as the profane, or world court. This is where the beasts and fowls were prepared for sacrificial offering. It represents the world or mortal mind, or as we prefer to say, the conscious mind. 11. The inner court was known as the holy place. This is where the people gathered to worship, to pray, and also to receive the word of the Supreme One. The inner court is the soul which stands between the inmost and outmost, as a medium to transmit the message to the people. The telephone exchange answers a similar purpose. When you take down the receiver of the telephone, you dial or ask for the number of someone who is elsewhere. The exchange connects you, and you are enabled to converse through the connection made for you. 12. The inmost court is known as the Holy of Holies. This represents the purified inner shrine. No one could enter this court but the higher priest, and he but once a year, for the purpose of making atonement for himself and the people. In this Holy of Holies, there was a chest containing the most sacred furnishings of the tabernacle. This chest, or arkansas, was lined and covered with gold plate. On top of it were 2 cherubim, kneeling and facing each other. Between the cherubim on the cover was an upraised place somewhat like an altar. This was known as the mercy seat. From the mercy seat there emanated a mysterious light or radiance, which was known as the Holy Shekinah. The light was an evidence of Jehovah's presence. It was regarded as the real presence of Jehovah, which filled the entire Holy of Holies. 13. This chest with all its furnishings was known as the arkansas of the covenant, which represents the inmost word or thought of God. The spirit of man is nothing less than the spirit of God, an extension of God into a personal human body. Through this spirit, all men are united as one. 14. The oneness is in all men, and we call it the superconscious mind, or Christ in you, the hope of glory. Thus, human beings are branches of God. Ye are the branches, said Jesus. This pure light and life of God manifests in human beings in accordance with the purity or non-purity of the person through whom it shines. We can illustrate this better by saying that electricity radiating through a red globe produces a red light, through a blue globe, blue light, and through a white globe, white light. The inner light in every instance is pure white. Our business is to cleanse the outer consciousness so that the light may shine through us in its whiteness instead of red or blue. 15. Upon attaining this state, we become illuminated and inspired, and we are no longer experimenters, speculators, or guessers on the path of life. We know and we know that we know without being bombastic or egotistical. To enter the silence, therefore, means entering the Holy of Holies, beyond the veil of ordinary sense, to make our own at one ment. Thus we become knowers of the divine will or the universal law, which maketh rich and addeth no sorrow therewith. 16. Upon entering this true silence, you become the possessor of advanced knowledge. This silence is where you meet the Supreme Teacher. This is the University of Universities. In this chamber of silence, all masters have learned mastery. 17. In the silence and in concentration, your experiences will be of a character that belongs to your evolution and unfoldment. Some people will seem to see light, some will seem to hear voices, others will only gather fertile thoughts and plans, still others will have a feeling or impulse to do or not to do the thing they contemplate. Some will seem to get nothing at all, yet they do receive, though it is not apparent to them. 18. The spirit of man, or the superconscious mind, is a great storehouse of power, love, life, or of anything that God is. The spirit might also be likened to high-tension electrical energy. It is the power behind the throne of each human life. 19. The idea and purpose of the silence is to make connection daily with the great storehouse of energy, to be charged with it in the silence, according to your specific need, in much the same way as electrical storage batteries are charged. When you are low in wisdom, energy, or tact, go into the silence and refill yourself. 20. Thus you make your at one ment or fill yourself with the likeness of God, so that you go back into the business world richly supplied with divine energy and equipped for work. When you are in tune with the universal, nothing can prevail against you. 21. You march victoriously forward. 22. A lancet blade has penetrative power because of its extremely fine edge. It meets with less resistance in passing through and between the molecules of substance than a blade with a blunt edge. The concentrated mind is a mind pointed, sharp, and penetrative that finds a way through hard problems. It thus dissolves and disintegrates the seemingly impossible and brings the gold of experience out. 23. Many a perplexed businessman has turned the tide of failure into success by devoting an hour to silent meditation each day in his place of business before opening to the public. This accomplishes two purposes. It puts him into tune with his inner business manager, and it charges his place of business with a divine presence, which acts as a magnet to draw trade. 24. The silence is the university of all universities. It is here that all wise men have received their wisdom. It is here that the greatest teacher of all teachers instructs the devotee. 25. A master mind is one which is capable of adjusting itself to every problem with which it is confronted. The man of concentration has wisdom and can master every problem. 26. Man is an epitome of all law, forces, and manifestations in nature. The telephone, camera, flying machine, typewriter, etc. are only projections of the complex nature and makeup of man. It still remains true that the greatest study of mankind is man. 27. Using the simile of electricity, the spirit of man may properly be likened to high-tension power, the soul of man to a transforming station and conduit wires, leading to the conscious mind and the physical application of the spirit. 28. The Spirit indeed is the power behind the throne of man. The next part will tell you how desirable conditions are brought about by the use of attraction, adhesion, and cohesion, and how undesirable conditions are dissolved by scattering, diluting, vaporizing, and disintegration. Part 11. Study questions with answers. 1. What is the silence? Silence is that relaxed and passive condition of the mind and body in which the spirit energizes, illumines, and clarifies the conscious planes of the mind. The silence is the university of all universities. It is here that all wise men have received their wisdom. It is here that the greatest teacher of all teachers instructs the devotee. 2. What is necessary in order to bring about this condition? In order that the spirit may convey wisdom to the mind, it is important that you have a special time for quietness or silence, in which you should allow no interruptions. 3. How long will this require? Spend from 10 to 20 or 30 minutes in this silence. It does not help you if you spend a longer period of time in the silence, unless there be some special emergency. 4. Should this time be regular? It is a good practice to have a set time or times every day for this silence. You may observe silence for 3 to 5 minutes at other times, say at your desk in your bedroom, or while riding in car, bus, or train. 5. What brings about this illumination and clarification of the conscious mind? Your conscious mind is illuminated and clarified because in the silence you are in communion with the Supreme Spirit. The spirit of man is nothing less than the Spirit of God, an extension of God into a personal human body. Through this Spirit, all men indeed are united as one. 6. Illustrate the method. Every muscle of your body should be relaxed and the mind be withdrawn from and cleared of all external things, and given wholly to a listening attitude, as though you were in the presence of a great teacher. In the silence, the mind's ear should be turned to the Supreme Spirit and to no other source of instruction. If your attention wanders, bring it back. You will find it easier to observe silence and receive wisdom if you close your eyes. 7. What change does this bring about? The Supreme Spirit thinks through you and for you, and you receive wisdom to help you in your life and work. You become illuminated and inspired. You are no longer an experimenter, speculator, or guesser on the path of life. You know and know that you know. 8. What do we learn in the silence? In the silence, you become the possessor of advanced knowledge. There you meet the Supreme Teacher. In this chamber of silence, all masters have learnt mastery. There you evolve and unfold. When you feel a lack of wisdom, energy, or tact, you go into silence and replenish yourself. 9. What is the purpose of the silence? The purpose of the silence is to make connection daily with the great storehouse of energy, to be charged with it in the silence according to your specific need. 10. What is the result? The result of observing the silence is that you make your at-one-ment or fill yourself with the likeness of God, so that you return to the world richly supplied with divine energy and equipped for work. You have become in tune with the universal, and nothing can prevail against you. You march victoriously forward. Part 12. Perfect Harmony. This part tells you of a still higher plane of existence. On this plane, all is perfect. Argument ceases when harmony is attained. On this plane, the harsh lines of the face disappear. The voice becomes soft and beautiful. It is the ideal state. On this plane, the adventures of life and romance merge into one happy reunion. On this plane, the ideal has become the reality, the seeker and the soughter one. 1. To concentrate the mind means to fix all mental attention at a common center. To concentrate means to centralize and intensify attention. To concentrate means to make the mind one-pointed. 100%. Attention is perfect concentration. 100%. Attention brings power and success. 2. Dynamite is concentrated and crystallized energy. Mind becomes like spiritual dynamite when concentrated. A concentrated mind can do wonderful work and formerly unthought of things. The dynamic mind makes a success where others fail. This is so because it evolves and invents means and methods to attract success. It has power to carry out its plans and methods. 3. Take a double convex lens. With it, focus the rays of the sun on any combustible substance, and enough energy is centralized to fuse or diffuse the substance. Mind should be used for both fusion and diffusion. 4. The trained business mind dissolves undesirable conditions and produces desirable conditions by scientific concentration. In the concentration that dissolves, he uses a mental idea or word. That word represents what he wishes to happen, namely, scattering, diluting, vaporizing, or disintegration. 5. In concentration to attract, he uses words of magnetism, attraction, adhesion, cohesion. In concentration, these words become very powerful in accomplishing the things they are sent to do. 6. The most ideal condition for concentration is solitude or aloneness. The frame of mind should be one of earnest desire, solicitude, and determination. To accomplish the greatest results in concentration, determine first what is your greatest desire. Then concentrate upon that. Affirm positively that you will accomplish it. Know that you are not working alone and that the indwelling mind works with you, guides your thoughts, decisions, and actions. 7. After you have decided on your greatest desire and made your positive affirmation, be sure to relax every muscle of your body and be quiet in contemplative thought. You may sit quietly or recline. 8. Concentration may be used to acquire business success, mental accuracy, wisdom, power, inspiration, and soul growth. Misdirected or undirected mind power is responsible for many failures in life. Too many people enter upon the business of life in a haphazard way, without definite aims or purposes. 9. Success has its definite laws, as definite as the laws of mathematics or electricity. A man's first consideration in life should be to familiarize himself with the laws of success, both the internal spiritual laws and the external material laws. 10. Because the adepts and master possess the ability to concentrate, other people, at all periods, have looked upon them as miracle workers. 11. To perfect the ability to concentrate usually takes time, sometimes many years, but as intensity of action will increase speed, so the assimilation of knowledge will increase power and enable the initiate to control conditions and experiences. Any extraordinary display of power arises from the conscious control of Prana, which is the source of all power, all motion, and all being. 12. The finer forces of nature may be dormant in you, but if so, they are awaiting the call. The door is there, the lock is awaiting the key. The key is that knowledge you possess, which will open the combination lock of the cosmic safe deposit, in which are stored many kinds of treasure. You by knowledge are to become the dweller in a mansion of your own choice, where peace and happiness prevail. 13. The nerve force of the human body governs and controls the circulation of the blood. In other words, the heart does not do all the work of circulating the blood through the body. Further, we know that the quantity of nerve force can be increased or decreased in any part of the body by centralizing the will on any part of the body. You can increase or withdraw the blood from any part of the body through the intelligent use of willpower. 14. Any intense mental activity immediately after meals increases the quantity of blood in the brain and decreases the quantity in the stomach and bowels, leaving the work of digestion to stagnate for want of plenty of blood. People troubled with indigestion should increase the quantity of blood in the stomach and bowels immediately after meals by an intelligent centralization of the willpower in the stomach and bowels. This will cure indigestion without fail. 15. Prosperity is the fruitful result of successful endeavor in any field of human activity. It means not only an abundance of external things, but an abundance of intellectual things. It comes from applying the knowledge you have learned. If you are progressive, you are prosperous. Real prosperity is within you, and it is the greatest prosperity because it is with you always. 16. Prosperity is the measure that expresses the worth of the individual in accordance with the principles he maintains and has followed with sagacity, endurance, and continuity. 17. No one, excepting alone the initiates in India, ever dreamt that things so marvelous are to be accomplished by a scientific and intelligent control of breath. But this is a fact which can be verified by anyone who is prepared to exert the effort to learn. For what man has done, man can do if he will learn how. 18. By the study of yoga philosophy, you will enrich your knowledge and achieve results in accordance with your capacity to receive. Rouse your dormant energy by the study of philosophy, and this philosophic flame will find its own fuel and perpetuate itself into a blaze of greatness, which will enlighten the world. 19. Arguments cease when harmony is attained. A still higher phase exists called the superconscious, which is samadhi. In this state, everything is perfect. It is a unity of all that exists. There is no arguing or wrangling. In this serene silence, all differences have been subdued. All is perfect. 20. This explains the ethical theory that we must not hate, but must love, because, just as in the case of electricity, the power which leaves the dynamo will complete the circuit and return to the dynamo, so all other forces in nature must come back to the source. 21. Therefore, do not hate anyone, because hatred is a force which comes out from you and must come back to you. 22. If you love, that love will come back to you. It is just as certain that every bit of hatred will come back to you in full force. Nothing can stop it. Every impulse of emotion will return to the source from which it originated. 23. Yoga will even change a hoarse voice into a beautiful one. All ugly lines in the face can be made to disappear, or an expression of calmness, quiet, and serenity can be cultivated. A few months' practice is all that is necessary to bring about results. 24. In yoga philosophy, concentration is called pranayama. Remember these yoga terms. 1. Akasa, omnipresent, all-penetrating existence, the sum total of the cosmic energy. 2. Prana, the vital force. 3. Pranayama, control of the prana. 25. We thus find that everything is formed out of akasa. 26. That prana is the vital force permeating the universe. It is akasa in motion. 27. Pranayama is the method of controlling this force. 28. Now yoga philosophy utilizes its knowledge of pranayama in order to accomplish desired ends. These ends differ in accordance with individual needs. An understanding of pranayama frees us from sorrow, fear, and pain. It is the knowledge of power which makes the impossible possible. 29. Yoga philosophy makes clear that great mysterious law, the law of correspondences, and when you understand the workings of this law of laws, you will understand yoga. 30. The akasa is an all-pervading, primordial, homogeneous substance, every part or portion of which contains in potentiality all the powers that now or ever hereafter shall exist. Every atom of the present heterogeneous universe, being but a conditioned aspect of the homogeneous whole from which it came, contains, inherent within itself, all those infinite powers which are ever seeking to express themselves. 31. But the activities of these powers are conditioned by the states of the substance in which they act, and all these conditioned activities in reality make life, will, mind, and all the forces of nature. 32. There is a spirit or will, a self-moving power, substance or inseparable portion of this same spirit which moves. 33. This spirit, or force or will, is prana. 34. The third and likewise inseparable fact or motion by which the spirit or substance is controlled makes a trinity which is a unity, and this unity is called pranayama. 35. There are many different kinds and rates of motion that constitute vibration, and every motion or vibration makes its own corresponding substance, color, sound, and number. 36. Of the different kinds of motion, one sort represents the spiral, another the vertical, another the vibratory, another the undulatory, and others again attraction or repulsion. 37. Scientists, by the aid of microscopes, have discovered invisible lives corresponding to all these, and even their form reveals their relation. Let them beware, for they are treading on the domains of the occult, and before long may be proclaiming as science the ancient philosophy of the Yogi. 38. In this hidden realm, brotherhood prevails. Saviors or salvations are minor notes. There is no distinction between the individual and the universal mind. 39. Compassion, mercy, justice are mere words in that realm. Youth, beauty, and splendor shine in the realm where Jesus, Moses, Manu, Socrates, Kapila, and Patanjali mingle with Buddha and Muhammad. 40. In that great and glorious life, morality, ethics, power, and attraction are all mingled in one Congress of Kings. 41. They have by strenuous effort gained all there is. 42. They have attained the goal. 43. Eventually, the yogi attains an ideal state of bliss called nirvana. To compare this state would be impossible, for there is nothing with which to compare it. However, this state is within the reach of all in this life. It is a state of mind. 44. Bhakti Yoga teaches a devotion to an ideal. 45. To such a yogi adept, the ideal takes on the form of reality, and his daily life is arranged so that in thought, word, or deed he is constantly endeavoring to attain this ideal. 46. This attainment is expressed when he becomes one with that which is sought. Then the seeker and the sought are one. He becomes the ideal himself. 47. On the path of attainment, all obstacles are but conditions to test the strength of his idea. The fact is, every condition that obstructs it is a means to uplift, strengthen, and pursue the course with added vigor, strength, and conviction. 48. The Almighty God of Christendom, Allah of the Mohammedans, Buddha of the Buddhists, Brahma of the Hindu, Jehovah of the Jews are ideals of nations. The sway of these ideals still plays a potent part in the life of all. These names will impel us to take refuge in the doctrines and teachings of these masters and their disciples. 49. When Bhakti Yoga is attained, life's adventures and romances merge into nobler and grander caliber and mingle with gods and goddesses, angels and sanctified beings of every clime, who merge as one in happy reunion, where none is greater than the other. This state can only be obtained by the process of development, and in this state there are no cravers of health, for all is health. No cravers of beauty, for all is beauty. No cravers of youth, for all is youth. 50. With this state we have nothing to compare. Its sublimity is too grand to compare. 51. Where yogi gather, all are kind. There is no discrimination, for they are possessors of all knowledge. Part 12. Study questions with answers. 1. What is concentration? Concentration means the fixing of the mental attention at a common center. When concentrating, you centralize and intensify attention. You make your mind one-pointed. Concentration is 100% attention. This kind of attention brings power and success. 2. What is dynamite? Dynamite is concentrated and crystallized energy. The dynamic mind is the perfectly concentrated mind. 3. What is a dynamic mind? The mind becomes like spiritual dynamite when concentrated. It can then do wonderful work and formerly unthought of things. It has power to invent and power to carry out its plans and methods. The dynamic mind makes a success where others fail. 4. What is the result of concentration? Concentration dissolves undesirable conditions and produces desirable conditions. 5. What is attractive concentration? Attractive concentration means using the words that represent the ideas of magnetism, attraction, adhesion, and cohesion, which are powerful in accomplishing one's desires. 6. What is dissolving concentration? Dissolving concentration means using the words that represent the ideas of scattering, diluting, vaporizing, or disintegration when you wish these things to happen. 7. What is prosperity? Prosperity is the fruitful result of successful endeavor in any field of human activity. It means not only an abundance of external things, but an abundance of intellectual things. It comes from applying the things you have learned. If you are progressive, you are prosperous. Real prosperity is within you, and it is the greatest prosperity because it is with you always. Prosperity is the measure that expresses the worth of the individual in accordance with the principles he maintains and has followed with sagacity, endurance, and continuity of purpose. 8. How does the Toga philosophy utilize concentration? Yoga philosophy utilizes concentration to accomplish desired ends. 9. Why is this control possible? Because pranayama means control of the vital force, and concentration is an aspect of the vital force. 10. What is Bhakti Toga? Bhakti Yoga teaches devotion to an ideal. To the yogi adept, the ideal takes on the form of reality, and his daily life is arranged so that in thought, word, or deed he is constantly endeavoring to attain this ideal. When Bhakti Yoga is attained, life's adventures and romances merge into nobler and grander caliber and mingle with gods and goddesses, angels and sanctified beings of every clime, who merge as one in happy reunion, where none is greater than the other. The sublimity of this state is too grand to compare. All is health, beauty, youth. Where yogi gather, all are kind. There is no discrimination, for they are possessors of all knowledge. If there a blessing known, pass it on. Let it travel down the years. Let it dry in others' tears. Till in heaven the deed appears, pass it on. This recording of The Amazing Secrets of the Yogi by Charles F. Haanel was presented by David De Angelis. Sound recording copyright 2022 and produced by Deep Zen Limited 2022.